Good morning, everyone. Jake, I just want to check and make sure that you can hear us in the Zoom room.
Yes, we can hear you in the Zoom room, Sam.
Okay, great. Then, Chair Crandall, we will be ready to begin on time.
There we go.
Oh, I can't see without my phone.
Testing, there we go. Okay, it's on. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the April 5th Board of Supervisors meeting. And we always start out with our customary moment of silence, and we do have a moment of silence, and I'd like to invite up JT Armis, our Animal Control Director.
Thank you. I'm Jonathan Armis. I'm the Lake County Animal Control Director. As many have known or heard, a couple of weeks ago, Dr. Richard Bachman passed away suddenly. He was our veterinarian at our county shelter and had been assisting our facility for over a decade. Many of our public services were a direct result of his work and dedication, and he really did dedicate much of his life to affordable access to care, and that involved even providing services all across the world, actually. And he worked extensively with a lot of our neighboring counties from the Bay Area on up. So Dr. Bachman will be greatly missed by all who knew him. Many communities have lost a very important person, and hold Dr. Bachman and his family in our thoughts and prayers today.
JT, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance as well?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I neglected to ask any other Board of Supervisors if there was a moment of silence, so I apologize if we missed out. And if you would like to still conduct one, we can, if you have one. Okay. I apologize for that. See, I know sometimes, usually I ask you all before. All right. Consideration of extra items not appearing on the posted agenda. Don't see any, so we will move on to item 5, approval of the consent agenda. The consent agenda is an item that we pass multiple agenda items with one motion that are non-controversial, and sometimes we can pull them and discuss further at a later time. And I'd like to see if there's any supervisors that have any. Supervisor Sabatier?
I'd like to pull item 5.10.
5.10, okay. Are there any others? All right.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I would like to pull 5.3, and we'll bring it back a future date, so no date for that one. And I'd like to pull 5.5 for discussion later today.
5.5. So 5.5 and 5.10 will be later on today, obviously, and then the rest, the 5.3 will be pulled at a later date. Are there any other items to be pulled from the consent agenda? Not hearing any from the board. We will look towards the chambers. Nope, nobody from the public in the chambers. And how about online? I don't see any hands raised. So with that, I'll bring it back to the board for action.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve items 5.1, 5.2, 5.4, 5.6 through 5.9, and 5.11 through 5.20 from the consent agenda.
Did you say 5.6 through 5.9?
Yes, did I miss one that we were supposed to pull?
No, I think it sounded like you said 5.6, 5.9. So did you?
Through 5.9
Excellent.
as a correction.
Noted.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the motion passes. I figured can we do it that way? I figured, do you want to keep doing it the other way? Sorry. I figured since we're in person, we can do that.
Caught us all off guard.
All right, next is our 6.1, Pet of the Week. And so with that, we will invite Animal Control up, and I could tell, is it Max, you said? Max, he's pretty,
He is a 4-year-old male neutered German Shepherd mix. Oh, Max. He can be found at Lake County Animal Care and Control at 4949 Helpless Drive in Lakeport. He is fully vaccinated and, of course, neutered, so he's ready for adoption. You can also call 707-263-0278 for Max or any of our other adoptable friends. If you want to come look at Max or any of our other friends, we are open to the public from 11 to 4. And if you're busy during the week, we're also open on Saturday from 11 to 3. Max is in kennel 18, and he's such a good boy. I know you've been so gentle and calm with everybody. And also, when you adopt, you're not only giving them their forever home, but you're making much needed space for other stray dogs who are looking for their owners or waiting for their forever homes. Oh, Max, you're such a good boy. Any other questions? You got any questions for Max? No?
come on, Max, you have 3 minutes.
He kind of made a round and said hi to everybody. Did anybody up there want to say hi to him?
He jumped on me.
He is very excited. He got his morning roundabout. Our kennel staff is amazing and gets them out as often as they can, but this is probably a super delight for him to come out and get the fresh air and sunshine. Oh, Max. Oh. All right. You ready? You ready?
Good luck,
All
man.
right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
And we hope that Max finds a home soon.
Oh, us too. He's a beautiful dog. Huh, Max?
All right.
Have the rest of your day.
You too.
Thank
Have a
you.
great day. Thank you again. All right. 9:06 is our public input. With this, anyone that has an item that's not, they would like to discuss that is not on the agenda currently today, you have 3 minutes to either come up to the microphone, or if you're on Zoom, you can unmute, and we'll give you 3 minutes. And if you do, please do not feel that we're not trying to listen to you or address your issue. We're not allowed to comment when it comes to items that aren't on the agenda. So I'm not seeing anybody in the chambers. I don't see anybody on Zoom. So with that, I will close public input, then move on to item 6.3. Presentation of proclamation designating the month of April 2022 as Alcohol Awareness Month in Lake County. And Supervisor Pyska will go ahead and read this proclamation.
I know, it is. It's brand new. Good morning. So Board of Supervisors, County of Lake, State of California, proclamation designating the month of April 2022 as Alcohol Awareness Month in Lake County. Whereas excess alcohol use and misuse impacts adults and youth of all racial, cultural, and economic backgrounds. Cultural norms and social pressures have contributed to excess alcohol use and misuse. Local Lake County law enforcement agencies, including the California Highway Patrol, the Lake County Sheriff's Office, Clear Lake Police, and Lakeport Police Department, report for the calendar year of 2021 340 public intoxication violations, 391 driving under the influence violations, 31 driving under the influence violations involving other drugs, and 129 DUI collisions, 15 of which resulted in fatalities. And whereas Lake County Behavioral Health Services provided DUI program services to 247 participants in the calendar year of 2021. Lake County Behavioral Health Services has offered treatment services for 62 individuals with diagnosed alcohol use disorders in the calendar year of 2021. In the state of California, 11,026 annual deaths are attributed to excess alcohol use, and 60% of those deaths are due to chronic causes, such as alcohol use disorder. And whereas, through promotion of Alcohol Awareness Month, people from all walks of life are encouraged to become knowledgeable about what they can do to create a healthier tomorrow for themselves and other by helping to prevent these problems today. And whereas, with commitment and support, excessive alcohol use and misuse can be prevented. However, success will not occur overnight. Our patience and continued commitment to alcohol consumption education and prevention are imperative. And whereas the County of Lake Board of Supervisors and Lake County Behavioral Health Substance Use Disorder Services urges all citizens, families, governmental agencies, public and private institutions, businesses, healthcare education system in Lake County to support efforts that will increase community awareness, understanding, and action to address excess alcohol consumption and misuse in our community. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Lake County Board of Supervisors joins with the Lake County Department of Behavioral Health Services, Division of Substance Use Disorder Services, do hereby proclaim that April 2022 is Alcohol Awareness Month in the County of Lake, passed and adopted this 5th day of April 2022. Did you want to say?
Thank you. Just a couple words. Thank you, Board of Supervisors, for giving us this time, helping us shine a spotlight on alcohol awareness. I know I've got folks here that might want to say a few words, but I do want to thank our staff who works tirelessly in the community supporting folks experiencing alcohol abuse. We work closely with SafeRx, our medicated assisted treatment providers. There's still a lot of work to do, but I thank you for this time to allow us to talk about this. So I think, who's next? I don't want to take up all this time, so I want to introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Amber Westfall. I am a program coordinator with Lake County Behavioral Health Substance Use Disorder Services. And I want to thank the board today for recognizing April as Alcohol Awareness Month. As highlighted in some of the proclamation, our community has some pretty grave consequences around alcohol misuse and consumption. So I just wanted to take a moment to thank all of our partners in the community who work towards minimizing those grave consequences and treating the negative effects already that have occurred for individuals who have alcohol use disorder and misuse. Everybody from prevention to treatment. So I want to thank all community partners, all of our prevention providers, all of our treatment providers, and our MAP providers, and all of our law enforcement providers that help individuals get the help that they need. Thanks.
April Gamber, Lake County Behavioral Health Services. I just wanted to, again, kind of just reiterate the communication that was said here today. We can't do this alone, and so it takes each and every one of us to support. And so I want to thank our community partners and community members and just really doing what we can to limit the impact of alcohol use. Thank you.
And thank you for all that you do and bringing this to us so we can give it the attention it deserves. Do you want to do a picture?
Got it. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. All right. Do we have anything from the board that has anything to add to that? Anyone from the public? I'll look online and see if there's anybody. All right. We'll move on to our next item, which is 6.4, presentation of proclamation designating the month of April 2022 as Child Abuse Prevention Month in Lake County, and Vice Chair Scott will read this proclamation.
Good morning. I'm sure I have some people out here that'd like to join me this morning. Yeah, come on and join me.
Nice.
Keep coming.
Hey, you guys can step up here if anyone wants to move up too.
Yeah.
You guys know how to fill up a room.
I know.
Step on up. There you go.
Good morning, good morning. Well, this morning we are designating the month of April 2022 as Child Abuse Prevention Month. Whereas approximately 3 million children are reported abused and neglected in the United States each year, and it is estimated that over 1,700 children die from abuse and neglect in a single year. Our children are our most valuable resource and will shape the future here of Lake County. So we need to be doing more, and it's just amazing to see everybody here. Whereas child abuse prevention is a community problem, all residents should become more aware of the effects of child abuse and its prevention, and finding solutions depends on involvement of people throughout the community. Communities must also make every effort to promote programs and activities that create strong and thriving children and families. And whereas effective child abuse prevention programs succeed because of their partnerships created among social agencies, schools, religious and civic organizations, law enforcement agencies, the business community, and supporting parents in raising their children in safe and nurturing environments. And whereas current local initiatives to prevent child abuse include building resilience, a county-wide collaboration, adverse childhood experiences, nurturing family programs, differential response, RCS wraparound services, infant massage, Motherwise, and the protective factors. And I'm sure there's probably others. And I'd have to say a lot of these programs too, they work in collaboration with each other. Whereas events being held this month for April this year are the Pinwheel Challenge, which I still have to get mine up, and child abuse information is being shared on media for the month. Other events recognizing April is Child Abuse Prevention Month will be taking place later in the year, and I'm sure we'll hear about some more. Whereas, now therefore it be proclaimed, the Lake County Board of Supervisors does hereby proclaim April 2022 as Child Abuse Prevention Month in Lake County and calls upon the residents, community, and agencies, religious organizations, medical facilities, and businesses to increase their participation in our efforts to prevent child abuse, thereby strengthening our communities in which we live. Passed and adopted this 5th day of April 2022. Great. And I'll hand the mic over to you.
All right, and I'll trade you.
And I'm going to have something fixed on here, and then I'll give it to you.
Okay, and then these are for all of you guys. We made you awesome packets. Thank you, guys. I don't know which way to stand. We'll do this way, my block in. All right. Thank you, guys, for the support for child abuse prevention. Okay, I don't want to face the camera. All right. All right. So in the federal fiscal year of 2020, 3.9 million reports were made to Child Protective Services. So if you think about that, we were in a pandemic, and that's a lot for a lot of people being at home. So I couldn't only imagine how many were actually missed in 2020. This year, the National Child Abuse Prevention Month theme is Thriving Children and Families, Prevention with Purpose. So by making commitments to purposeful actions rather than just raising awareness, we can treat the root cause of maltreatment and promote the safety and well-being of children across the country together. So all of our families need help sometimes. I can vouch for that, just so you know. Making the commitment this month to learn new ways to strengthen children and family well-being is a big priority. When we invest in our children, we invest in our futures. So this April, learn how communities, which ours, come together and collaborate. And by the way, we have an amazing collaboration in this community to work together for all these families. So child abuse prevention starts with each and every one of us, not just me. Together, we can make it easier for families to access support services and learn how to identify and build on their strengths. So child abuse prevention starts with us. Together, we can make it easier for families to access the support. So please show your support this month by wearing blue. It started on April 1st, but you can wear it the whole entire month because I know everyone has tons of blue. Putting up your pinwheels. We are waiting for yours. I know. And there is a, let's call it a competition. For the month of April, if you hashtag Resilient Lake County, when you do take pictures of your pinwheels, we will be coming around and we're having a fun competition with pinwheel gardens. So please share your gardens so we know where they are and we can get them out there. Also support with the proclamations. Like today, we have another one tonight at the city of Lakeport, and then we're doing one in the city of Clear Lake. We will have an event to close out the Child Abuse Prevention Month on the 22nd. More information will be out about that. And then, of course, our Advocacy Walk and Children's Festival on April 23rd from 10 to 3 at Library Park. So come and show your support. We have a bunch of booths. We have fun activities for all the kids, and we will be there. And it's free, all of it, free. Does anyone have anything else they want to say? Anyone? You want to talk? No? No?
I just have to make my annual plug. Jolene Treadaway, Redwood Community Services. There are children who've experienced abuse and neglect from this community who need homes. So if you have room in your home and your heart to take in a foster child, please reach out either to Child Welfare Services, Environmental Alternatives, or Redwood Community Services to learn about becoming a foster parent.
You're here. Anybody else? I'm sure Sam's going to want to take a picture. Yeah. You know, we'll take this back to the front of the room.
Thank you, everybody.
More things to hang? I'll let you.
Do we have anyone that wants to say anything about this item? Anything else? Anyone from the public? And I don't see anyone online. So we will now move on to item 6.5, presentation of proclamation honoring Public Health Week, April 4th through 10th, 2022. And we will invite our Health Director, Jonathan Portney, up as well.
I guess Jonathan didn't know he was supposed to bring a big crowd of people with him.
They're on Zoom.
They're on Zoom.
Yeah.
Where's our crowd?
They're working hard.
Working hard. There we go. Well, Jonathan, I know this is the first one you've joined us for, and Thank you very much. So I'll go ahead and read it. This one is very long, so it's going to take me a minute. Board of Supervisors, County of Lake, State of California, proclamation designating Public Health Week, April 4th through 10th, 2022. Whereas the week of April 4th through the 10th is National Public Health Week, and the theme is Public Health is Where You Are. And whereas Public Health Week celebrates the role of public health in educating and empowering communities to improve health, prevent illness, and increase preparedness for disasters. And whereas COVID-19 response has remained at the forefront of the Lake County Health Services activities since March of 2020, and continues to be the longest disaster response effort in Lake County history to date. The divisions housed under the Health Department are Public Health, First Five, Administration, Environmental Health, and Veterans. And whereas Public Health Division has continued COVID-19 crisis response and successfully coordinated in-home, drive-through, and mass vaccination sites to provide COVID-19 vaccines throughout the community. Additionally, Public Health collaborated with local agencies to further programs working to reduce parental substance use disorders and to provide Narcan kits and training to individuals and groups. Coordinated access to telemedicine with board-certified pediatric specialists, enabling uninterrupted therapy and medical services accessibility during COVID-19 shutdowns. Increased and led educational efforts, distributed oral health products for adults and children, reinvigorated local school gardens, provided tobacco education, quit resources and outreach to partners. And whereas First Five Division is partnership with local agencies developed an eligibility wizard to help families with young children connect with resources and services in the county. First Five also collaborated with several partner agencies to produce Lake Family Magazine, providing parents with positive and practical advice, as well as creating the Parental Mental Health Toolkit to help providers serving women in their perinatal period to screen for perinatal mood and anxiety disorders. Whereas Environmental Health Division worked to build program capacity to detect, prevent, and control environmental health hazards by increasing staffing and response levels. Response efforts included performing over 343 retail food inspections of facilities, addressing 54 complaints of restaurant code violations, and working with tribal partners on mitigating cyanobacteria, harmful algae blooms. In addition, Environmental Health worked in collaboration with Lake County Public Works to identify methods for compliance with SB 1383, Edible Foods Recovery Program. While keeping up with the requirements of day-to-day operations, Environmental Health continued with providing emergency response support to address the 53 cache fire household hazardous waste inspections and 12 lightning fire complete property debris removal. And whereas Administration Division performed essential organizational and employee support vital to maintaining congruent and accountable operations, despite undergoing significant administrative changes to the included new leadership transitioning, the Administration Division preserved continuing to ensure all state and CDPH compliance standards. The purchasing and billing procedures were followed. In addition, the Administration Division worked with CDPH to secure an additional $1.4 million, in which a portion of the funds was earmarked to purchase a medical mobile clinic to increase access to direct vaccination services for homebound residents. The support provided and enabled the Health Services Department core programs and COVID crisis response team to operate in compliance and at capacity. Whereas the Veterans Division served our local veterans by reaching out directly with more than 6,500 phone calls and more than 3,500 emails. The division helped local veterans to access over $3.5 million in retroactive benefits, Veterans have also worked tirelessly to provide access to health benefits, including COVID testing and vaccination services to all local veteran populations. Whereas Public Health Week also recognized the partnership and service of local public and private health agencies, community partners, volunteers, foundations, academia, and health-related enterprises that are working in collaboration to promote healthy behaviors and support the department of the local COVID-19 crisis response activities. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the County of Lake Board of Supervisors, along with the Lake County Health Services Department, do hereby proclaim the week of April 4th through the 10th, 2022 as Public Health Week in Lake County, and urge all residents to join in this important observance. Passed and adopted on the 5th day of April 2022 and signed by the Chair of the Board of Supervisors. Okay, all right. There you go. We'll go ahead and turn the mic over to you.
So I have about a half hour?
Yeah, half hour.
Okay. Thank you, Supervisor, for sharing with community, the room, the board, our accomplishments in our public health department and service to the community. As some of you saw online with child abuse awareness, there was a lot of folks, 20 plus, I'd imagine. I think that's a testament to what our community is, what it represents, and that's collaboration, togetherness for the betterment of those that we serve. Public health doesn't work in a silo. It takes all of us. So this proclamation could have been at least 20 pages. Several people were left out. Behavioral health, social services, the fire department, sheriff's department, police department, Sutter, Adventist, Elijah, Tribal, the list could go on, CVS, Safeway, right? They all played a pivotal role in helping us navigate through the pandemic to provide essential services and support to the community. I think one of the most important aspects that gets left out in praise when it comes to public health is the community, the people watching online. If it wasn't for you and your efforts and your attention, your advocacy, and your willingness to show up, we wouldn't have all these glow and grows to share in this proclamation. And again, that speaks a testament to this community, to the staff at the Public Health Department. You have survived trial and tribulation over and over and over again, and you still show up every day to serve heartlessly, fearlessly, and with absolute commitment. And it doesn't go unnoticed on me, and I really hope it doesn't go unnoticed on the community partners and the community as a whole. I'm humbled to be here, and I'm humbled to be receiving this proclamation on behalf of the department. I'm honored to serve, and I just want to thank the community, those watching, those in this room, and for your tireless effort in supporting the health department. And I look forward to the bright future in collaboration and partnership as we continue to move forward to address health disparities. Just because COVID-19 is dwindling off and we're in the green tier, that doesn't mean we let up now. We start to prepare for the next one. We start to look at environmental issues when it comes to drought, when it comes to malnutrition, child abuse, neglect, behavioral health issues, transportation, IFT, ALS, VLS. It doesn't stop, right? But I appreciate the space, the attention, and the time that the community, the board, and other organizations are giving us to catch up, because oftentimes in public health, that's what we're doing, is we're trying to catch up. So thank you for reading this and sharing our glows, and again, appreciation to the staff and the community for your attention to the matter. Thank you.
Blocking somebody?
You want us to shift? We can move.
Okay, yes.
There we go.
More. Perfect. Thank you. Oh, you're great. Okay, awesome. One more. Got it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Jonathan. All right. Is there anything from the board or from the public? I don't see anyone on Zoom, so we will bring it back to the board and close this item. And I was notified that there was a public input submitted, so we are going to briefly go back to that before we go on to our 9:30 and conduct that. So Joan Moss, I think you submitted a public input form, and so if you'd like to come up and speak for your 3 minutes, now's your time.
Thank you very much. I've been a journalist for a long time. I was trained by Jim Brewer, city editor of the San Francisco Chronicle. And he taught me that when you do research, you get all sides of the story. So I want to read to you from the verdict from Judicial Watch. It's a conservative newspaper. We heard a lot about Mr. Fauci. We listened to him. We obeyed him. Judicial Watch received 221 pages of records from the Department of Health and Human Services that include a grant application for research involving the coronavirus, which was submitted in 2018. The grant application appears to describe gain-of-function research involving RNA extractions from bats, experiments on viruses, attempts to develop a chimeric virus, and efforts to genetically manipulate the full-length bat SARS-CoV-W151 strain molecular clone. There is another brief that says that Mr. Fauci did not come forth with honesty about how much money he earns. As a journalist, all we did is hear about Fauci, 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 and then all of a sudden, a blank. People who think and read want to know what happened to Fauci. This is a conservative paper. I challenge the other side, but this is one side, and I have read it. I've also read works by Dr. Cantwell and works by Robert Francis Kennedy. It's not just a fear-mongering book. It's facts. And as supervisors, you've been very good about listening to the alternative. I expect you to continue. Thank you. You don't agree with the alternative, but you listen. Thank you.
Thank you, Joan. With that, we will bring it back to our regular agenda item number 6.6, public hearing on account and proposed assessment for 6146 2nd Avenue, Lucerne, California. And I would like to invite up the code enforcement team, the manager, Marcus Beltramo, and will you relay your name for me, sir?
Norman Valdez.
Norman Valdez, thank you.
Sorry.
Before this or after?
Sorry, I traded chairs. I didn't give you the best one.
You think it'll take long? Yeah, it might take. Yeah. And so I think what we have to do first is swear everybody in that's present. And if there's anyone online, if you'd like to swear in, please unmute and turn on your camera so that we can see you swearing in as well. And Johanna will conduct that for us.
Okay, so with your right hand raised, do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
All right. So briefly pulling up a PowerPoint, so that's the delay for right now. So if you're tuning in, you should see it shortly coming up, and then Manager Beltramo will start when he's ready.
All right. Good morning. My name is Marcus Beltramo. I'm the manager of the Code Enforcement Division within the Community Development Department, and I'm accompanied here today by Norman Valdez III. He was the lead officer on this abatement. Upon completion of an abatement, we come before the board to give an account and a proposed assessment to record a lien on the property. The property in question here today is 6146 2nd Avenue, Lucerne, California. And as usual, we always kind of give a property description so everyone has context of the property location and the issues surrounding or involved with this property. So this property is located in a densely populated residential area of Lucerne. It is zoned R1. It's a single-family residential property. The property owner is a Lori Dostie. I believe that's the correct pronunciation, or that's the closest pronunciation I'm going to be able to give. The property was a vacant property. Nobody was living in it. And just to give some background here, the property was in a dilapidated state. It was run down. Neighbors were complaining. They were calling into our office, letting us know that they felt issues with this property. They had concern for their children, which prompted us to get involved and take an action here. So on May 13, 2021, we issued a notice of nuisance in order to abate. 2 violations of the Lake County Code were cited. One was for the existence of garbage, rubbish, refuse, waste matter, and weeds upon the premises, and/or which creates a fire hazard. And then we also cited the hazardous vegetation ordinance for improved parcels. This is what the property looked like. As you can see, there's a lot of overgrown weeds, a lot of vegetation covering the property there. Also on the property was a lot of junk and trash and rubbish, just sporadically piled all over the property. On the left, you can see just miscellaneous items, mostly what we would consider trash, rubbish, things that we would not want stacked in the front of our property. On the right, there's another example of trash. As you can see, there's a trash bag. Here's a kind of a closer-up view of what was occurring on the property. On the left, I'm not even sure how to describe that, but to kind of give you some detail, when you lift that blanket or that mat up, beneath it was additional garbage and rubbish. There was so much and it had been there for so long, it was just kind of matted down. And on the right, again, you can see another pile of just junk and rubbish. Again, the neighbors came to us, said that people were living in the house, living in an RV. They felt concerned for their children. The people living there presented some sense of danger to the residents in that neighborhood. In one instance, I was just driving by the property to do an inspection, and the lady came out and flagged me down. She said, "You guys need to do something about this. I don't like the people living there, and I feel for my children as they walk home from school by this property." Again, on the left, another pile of garbage and rubbish, and on the right, behind the fence, there was a mattress and some other miscellaneous items there. So we issued a first notice. Some time went by. We issued that in May. Some time went by. You know, our routine is usually 2 notices, but in this case, we determined that what was occurring on the property wasn't personal property or something that we were going to demolish. So we went and sent a final and last notice with a copy of the first notice, so we consider that a second notice. It was mailed to the property owner. The property owner did sign for it. Shortly after the September 20th letter went out, we were contacted by the daughter of the property owner, and she communicated to me she wanted to hire a contractor to clean the property and take care of it for her, I believe it was her elderly mother that was not capable. This was also during a time in COVID where I believe the mom did not want to leave her property to handle this issue, so she tasked her daughter with contacting me. I had a few communications with the daughter, email, phone calls, and then there was no communication. So I repeatedly called her, emailed her, again with no response. At this point, we got the impression there was nobody willing, or no responsible party willing to cure the issues occurring on the property. So we made the decision that we needed to move forward and abate the property and remove the health and safety issues from that property, and also to improve the quality of life in that neighborhood. Based on the lack of communication and cooperation of the property owner or her daughter, we had to obtain a warrant from a Lake County Superior Court judge. We basically put it out to bid for our contractors. Right now, we only have 2 contractors that we use for nuisance abatement. Only one quote was received. That was from Leonard's Hauling. It was in the amount of $2,000. And these are the after photos. As you can tell, there's quite an improvement once you get rid of all the hazardous vegetation and the high grass and the potential fire hazards that were on this side of the property. And on the other side, you can see how we clean the trash from and the rubbish from the side and I guess the other front of the property there. Almost looks like 2 different properties. We did see evidence that there were people squatting or living in this residence here. So really, the property owner needs to take the next step, which is to secure it and prevent other people that don't have the proper permission or consent from living in that residence and creating the issues that they caused here. At this time, staff recommends the Board of Supervisors confirm the assessment of $2,788.12. I believe that's a correction from the initial paperwork that we submitted, so that is a new number. That's $2,788.12. And to direct the staff to record a notice of lien against the property after recordation. It shall be delivered to the county auditor, who shall enter the amount of the lien on the assessment roll as a special assessment. The cost of the abatement services are $2,000 for our contractor. The administrative costs in this case amounted to $788.12. And that concludes our presentation.
Thank you. Are there any questions? I noticed that this isn't on the tax. This isn't on the tax roll as well. It's one that's actually paid up, so that's commonly that goes hand in hand with some of these, but not this time. Right.
At least it hasn't done 5 years to show that it's eligible for auction. It could be 1 or 2 years. I'm not certain unless code enforcement looked.
You have a,
I'm pretty sure they're paid up.
Yeah.
sounds like they're current on their taxes, but, you know, a home not lived in is a home that's not cared for. So these vacant homes, you know, they need somebody in them to take care of them and keep them up. Homes fall apart quickly when they're not, when somebody's not living in them. And you know, for counties suffering from adequate housing supply issues, this house could be something to provide a housing for residents of this county. Again, it does need some love and someone to take care of it.
Thank you. Not seeing anything. I'll see if Supervisor Sabatier?
I just want to share appreciation. I'm sure, Supervisor Crandall, I'm sure you can see this visually by being around in the area, this being in Lucerne in a prominent area. I can't imagine just how happy the neighbors are to see this being cleaned up, and this is exactly the kind of work that I appreciate seeing. I wish that there was compliance rather than us having to do the abatement, but the fact is, if we don't do the abatement, nothing changes for that neighborhood, and I appreciate seeing that change, so thank you.
Yes, I get a lot of calls about Lucerne. All right, I open it up for the public, or Ms. Grant, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yes, sir. I just wanted to suggest your board may want to inquire about the notice of the hearing today to ensure that it was properly given, and then to inquire on Zoom, et cetera, if anyone is here on behalf of the property.
That's right.
It doesn't appear to be the case, and notice appears appropriate, but just for the record.
So, go ahead.
We did mail out a notice of assessment. We mailed a certified mail to the property owner's address listed on county records. And we did update our notice to inform the property owner that they could attend in person and also via Zoom by going online or contacting the county administration office. So we have updated that notice of assessment to include that information.
Do you know when that was sent out?
I don't recall off the top of my head.
I want to make sure they had the chance, so. Does that suffice, Ms. Grant? Yes? Okay, so if there's anyone on Zoom, if you are here on behalf of this, please identify yourself so that we can give you the opportunity to speak if you're here about this property. All right, I don't see anybody. All right, so I'll bring it back to the board for action.
I just want to thank code enforcement for bringing these almost every week. You're really making a difference. I know there's a lot of properties like this around our county, and I know this work is several months ago, but really appreciate that you are bringing this to us every week. It's making a difference.
Supervisor Simon?
Yeah, I would like to, obviously follow along with the other supervisors that already made the comment. But I also want to, just say, thank the board and administration as we were moving through this. When I first came on the board, in the conversations we'd had over the past 5 years, was investing in the community development department, specifically to the code enforcement department. I know that we are starting to be almost fully staffed, and we're starting to bring these things forward. So having priorities in the 2028 vision, we're taking small steps forward. So I want to thank you guys and all of our work that's being done. But a big part of that was putting a good budget opportunity together with the help of all the department heads, and we're moving in the right direction. So thank you, and thank you to the rest of all the departments. So starting to take small steps forward, and it is great to see every week, because these are things that need to be done, and eventually, as you said, Supervisor Sabatier, the more we're up here doing these things, we will start to get that compliance, I think, moving in the right direction. So thank you from admin to the board and everybody working together to bring these things forward to help our community. So appreciate it.
Thank you, and we can't do this without the support of the board and all the tools you've given us, and we will get better and we will do more with those tools to find other means of obtaining compliance rather than having to do an abatement. An abatement is our nuclear option. It's an option that we, I'm sorry.
No, I like that. Right. That was a good word.
It's our nuclear option, and we don't like to go to it unless we absolutely have to. And when we make the decision to move forward, it's because we have to. So, but again, the support by giving us the tools, the funds. I thank the board and everybody involved, because it is a team thing to make this all work.
Yeah, no, it was just the word. It was a good word, because that's really like you say, what's what we have. And so in the meantime, fixing the administrative fines and all the other things, hazardous vegetation abatement and all those other ordinances and whatnot, that's going to give you even more tools so that you don't have to go straight to that option and press the red button. All right. Vice Chair Scott.
Just on the same tones, I'd like to make a comment about, these properties that you've been bringing to us seem to be vacant, but I'm sure that there's lots of other properties out there that people are actually living in the properties and unable to take care of them. And I believe the county we have a trailer and tools and other resources that communities can help each other. So I think we need to know who our neighbors are. Instead of just filing a complaint, maybe go and knock on your neighbor's door and see if they need some help removing those weeds or need assistance. We need to be helping each other out. So just want to put that plug out there too. The county should be the last stance to be able to get these properties cleaned up, but we need to be helping each other out to make sure that we have clean, safe communities.
Yeah, and just to follow up on that, South Lake County Fire Safe Council has a Neighbors Helping Neighbors program, and they have a form that both parties can fill out and releases everybody of liability. So that is a great tool for helping. We usually do that in springtime for cleanup, but for anything it can be helpful.
Is Elliot a part of that by any chance?
What's that?
Is Elliot Hurwitz part of that by any chance?
I think the form is on the South Lake County Fire Safe Council
Yes.
website,
Oh, okay.
but anybody could use it.
Okay.
So the Cloudberry Council promotes it, and probably Math too. It's really helpful. It's already done.
I think it'd be a good one for us on the North Shore to adopt, yeah. Thank you. So with that, I think we're looking for a motion. I did open to public, right?
Yes.
Yes, so we're good.
Mr. Chair, I move for the Board of Supervisors to confirm the assessment at $2,788.12 and direct staff to record a notice of lien against the property. After recordation, it shall be delivered to the county auditor, who shall enter the amount of the lien on the assessment roll as special assessments. The cost of the abatement services are $2,000. The administrative costs on this case amounted to $850.34. $788.12, I apologize.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second, but I'm going to hold because I didn't see this hand up in
Okay.
your Zoom room. So if is that acceptable, Ms.
And then you'd be
Grant? for
sworn
me?
in, I guess.
And would I need to swear the person in that's commenting?
If they're giving testimony, yes.
Okay. Betsy, if you want to unmute, or if you're giving testimony, we would need you to swear in, but if you're commenting, I think we can allow you to comment and give you your 3 minutes.
Mr. Chair and members of the board, thank you for allowing me to comment. I am not giving testimony in any sense of the word, but I would like to please ask you to not casually use the terms of nuclear options. The world is facing World War III today, and Veterans for Peace is opposed to any option of that nature. I just beg you, please don't do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
If I could, just before you go on with your motion, I'm sure community development is aware of this, but in Chapter 5, under building regulations, there is Article 7 regarding regulation of vacant structures. So that may provide some assistance to community development as they face many of these buildings that are seemingly, for all intent and purpose, abandoned.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, we're aware of that structure, and this one, due to the, so I only came involved probably about September-ish of this, and it sat there for May, June, July, August, September. So we felt with the condition, the concerns of the community, we felt we'd go in and abate it and take care of those issues immediately rather than post another notice, a superseding notice, add another 30 days onto it. We thought time was of the essence there. But the vacant structure ordinance is something is a tool that we are aware of and we'd like to use. The vacant structure ordinance is only supposed to be a 6-month Band-Aid until the property owner can do something, sell it or move on. So my only concern with the vacant structure ordinance is if we use it all the time, there'd be a lot of boarded up homes. And that's not a good look also. But I do appreciate county council suggesting that tool, and it is a tool that we will use in the appropriate situations.
All right. All right, with that, we do have a motion and a second, and so I'll go ahead and call for the vote. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries. So we will close this item. Thank you for your work on this. Norman, thank you as well for your work, boots on the ground work. All right. With that, I think we are at 9:57. We are going to go ahead and we're going to take a brief break, five-minute break, and then we will come to item, I think it's
510.
5.10, yeah. So after our break, we'll come to 5.10. All right. I'm not sure how we gauge that 5 minutes, but we took a break. So we're back. It's 10:07. Thank you, everybody. I think we have everybody here. I tend to do that sometimes, and I forget that these wonderful ladies aren't here with us sometimes, and I'm like starting without them. All right, so we will go to item 5.10. And this has been pulled from the consent agenda item, and it is to approve agreement between County of Lake and Adventist Health, St. Helena and Vallejo for acute inpatient psychiatric hospital services and professional services associated with acute inpatient psychiatric hospitalizations for fiscal years 2020, 2021, and 2021 and 2022 in the amount of $225,000 and authorize the board chair to sign. And this has been pulled by Supervisor Sabatier, if you wanted to start out, or?
Yes, I just had some questions on this. In the memo, it speaks to a contract that we did not approve, and we did approve the contract, at least for the 21-22. I'm being led to believe that we're being asked to approve funding to pay off bills for 2020-21, which we have to pay our bills. There's no other choice for that. But for 21-22, I'm not sure if we're being asked for an extra $150,000 or if it's the $150,000. I know I spoke with Director Metcalf yesterday, and he was going to look into that. And I still have those questions today. I wanted to pull that to make sure that, does it need to be an amendment to a contract that we've already approved? Does it need to be a brand new one? Because this is not an amendment, it's coming up as something new. So I wanted to make sure that we clarified that before moving forward. All on board for making sure that we pay for the services, though, that have been already given to us, provided to us.
Ms. Grant, did you have something to add to this?
I did just want to say that the memo reflects that behavioral health was confused about competitive bidding because of an advisory opinion that came from a deputy in my office. And I'm not real clear on why that would have been confusing, because the ability to put it out for bid was clearly stated. However, I wanted to offer, if your board needs further clarification on those issues, I'm happy to provide something in writing. But what was said by my office was done pursuant to 1810.430, California Code of Regulations on this topic. And I don't see anywhere where RFPs are precluded or putting it out to bid is precluded. So I just wanted to make sure that both behavioral health and your board understood that going forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, Ms. Grant, for that. And all those documents were provided along with the memo to the Board of Supervisors. And also, just for your information, as it does say in the board memo, we did, there is an active RFP out there right now that will close, I believe, on April 18th. And as Supervisor Sabatier articulated, this basically is to get this approved so we can pay these invoices for services already rendered. And I have other staff tuned in somewhere if they want to add something to this, but you've summed it up.
So if I can,
Supervisor Sabatier?
If I can ask the question again, are you asking for a total of $300,000 for 21-22, or do you need 100? Because we've already approved a contract, I believe it was March 1st, for $150,000. You asked for $300 to do for 2 years. We restricted that to 1 year and requested the RFP to be done. And so there is $150,000. Does that adequately cover your request on this item for 21-22, or do you need more?
No, this will cover the existing invoices that we have.
The contract we've already signed in the past?
Yes.
Okay, so there's no need to do 21-22 for this item here?
No. No.
Okay. And then for 2021, I want to make sure that we do pay that, and it's a process question. Do we amend the original contract that we did for 2021 to increase the funding, or what?
I'm not quite sure what the process is, or is this exactly what we need for 2021?
Well, yeah, that's why it came to you this way. I mean, an amendment wouldn't cover this. This will take care of everything.
I'm slightly confused as to how we break this down, and I just want to make sure that we do this correctly so that we can get the funding to pay the bills and making sure that it's done appropriately. I'm just kind of confused as to how.
Well, would an amendment be cleaner?
I don't know. I just know that right now, we're taking away the 21-22, and my question is, I guess my question might be also to County Council, is this appropriate to move forward for the $75,000 needed for 2021 as is, or does it need to be an amendment to a previous agreement? Because this is kind of like a new agreement for something that we've already agreed, but it's slightly different. So just curious. And she's ready to answer, I think so.
Yes, I was ready. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to point out that I approved this one as to form in October of 2021. So my approval of this agreement was quite a ways behind the adjustments that have been made over the last few months by your board in behavioral health. I do think that without having in front of me the agreement that your board's already approved, the one thing you do not want is to have any confusion with contracts with the same vendor over overlapping time periods. And if it is just simply to pay for services that had previously been rendered, behavioral health does have some template language for that you use that makes it clear. And the narrative for all of this is not simply to your board, but to the taxpayers who fund all of this, just to ensure that everything is clarified. Your board may, because of that, want to kick it over a week and give me the opportunity to look at the prior agreement and suggest any language. It won't be anything huge, but just enough to clarify if you'd consider that.
Thank you, Ms. Grant.
Would that be okay?
Well, this is the third time we brought this to the board, so, but that makes sense, what Ms. Grant just explained. So if we could bring this back as soon as possible with County Council's input, that will work.
All right. I did see that Elise had something. You did say staff was online?
Yes,
Elise Jones. And so if you would like to unmute and comment, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you for the comments on Ms. Grant. It's always greatly appreciated. In our assessment of this agreement, yes, we did prior bring it, and it was a multi-year agreement. And we thought that it would be cleaner to just break out an agreement that would cover the bills that we already owe money on. Also recognizing that the time frame in which we have to submit this out for reimbursement from the Department of Healthcare Services is rapidly closing. And so time is a bit of the essence here in order for us to recoup some of these funds. Additionally, because our RFP for acute psychiatric hospitalization services doesn't close until the 18th, we expect to bring forth new contracts moving into fiscal years 22-23. And so we thought it would cleanly demarcate the bills that we already have to pay, and then new contracts moving into future fiscal years.
Thank you for that. And so with that, I think we still would have time if we pushed it forward for 1 week and then brought it back and conducted the.
Yes, if we can do it within a week.
Right.
I would just say that it's an anecdotal understanding of how things might work might be okay for right now, but 3 years later, if someone's looking at it, it will be hard to explain. So if an additional week is possible, it'll be a simple thing to clarify this so that you can move forward.
All right. I think that looks like we have a consensus on that, so we'll bring this to the board next week and finish it up.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director.
Hopefully fourth time will be a charm.
All right.
Thank you.
I'll go ahead and open it up for public input, just in case. Is that what I should do? Yeah. Not seeing anyone in the room, in the chambers, and online. Not seeing anyone else. Okay, so we'll go ahead and close this item, and we'll see this next week. Thank you.
I'll
for
see you next
recognizing.
week.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. I think 5.5, does that sound like a good one to go to? Because we can. All right, so it looks like we'll go to 5.5. Approve Exhibit A of the Uniform and Clothing Purchase Policy, and CAO Hutchinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you remember, 2 weeks ago, you approved some revisions to this uniform policy on your consent agenda, and we realized after the fact that a column on the far right of the exhibit was deleted. And so I wanted to ask Matthew if he could do a share screen to show that exhibit here real quick, so I can illustrate to you the column that got dropped off. So it's the far right column that says all other departments enabling the provision of polo shirts in situations where they are loaned to employees. So we wanted to get that column back on there. That's the primary reason for bringing this back. But Special Districts Administrator Scott Harder also contacted us and indicated he has an additional need for his department, and so you see that in the yellow. His department was not previously authorized for the steel-toed muck boots, and so Director Harder is here to speak to that.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Hutchinson and Chair. We have been fitting out our employees with safety gear, and we've got a few new hires recently. And my superintendent brought to my attention that we didn't have an item in there for steel-toe muck boots. Most of the work that our field staff does requires safety boots, and those are provided for by the policy. But a lot of the work they do also requires waterproof footwear. Then there's times when their whole shift is down in a trench, in a muddy trench, or out in foul weather. So options for that are rain boots or waders, neither of which provide appropriate protection. In the past, I guess the department has either allowed them to just use rain boots and not have safety gear on their feet when they're down in the trench, or they have been provided steel-toe muck boots, but those have been purchased outside of the policy. So we would just ask that we could add that item to the policy so that we're not running afoul of the policy as we continue to fit our new employees out with safety gear.
All right.
That completes our comments, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Is there anything from the board? Any questions? All right. I'll open it up for public input. Not seeing anybody. And we'll bring it back to the board for action, right?
Mr. Chair, I'll move to approve the Exhibit A of the county uniform and clothing policy.
Second.
So I have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
One quick, did I need to amend anything, or
That was my
that
question.
cover
Yeah,
Scott's?
I believe you should say as amended
Okay,
today,
all
because
right.
the version that was posted was amended.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. So I will move to approve Exhibit A as amended of the county uniform and clothing policy.
And second.
All right.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And I apologize for not catching that.
Yeah, me too.
And we're at 10:21, so let's see here.
7.4 is probably.
Let's do 7.4. Consideration of the following advisory board appointments: maternal, child, and adolescent health, and a Kelseyville Cemetery Board. And I think we'll take these up one by one. And then the first looks like we have for the maternal, child, and adolescent health, 3 vacancies, and the applications received are for Kim Scott, or Schott, Nicole Cureri, or Shauna Rogers, and Shauna Rogers, I'm sorry. And so with that, is there any comment from the board? Supervisor Sabatier?
I just wanted to ask a question. It makes sense professionally for Nicole Carreri. I think I said that correct. Just wanted to check in if there's any anything prohibiting somebody from out of county. Obviously, their work is very related to childcare type of services, since they work with Partnership Health. But for their home address being in Windsor, I just wanted to check in on that, that's all.
Okay.
And I didn't have anywhere to gauge whether
Gauge that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, from what I remember, I know we've approved different folks that, for different committees or advisory committees, to serve on specific boards, as long as there's not conflicting, is from what I understand, but I will ask Ms. Grant.
Like it.
Yes, go ahead, Supervisor Sabatier.
And I'm wondering if CAO Hutchinson, if it's possible to find what positions of the membership would they be filling in? Because if it's a partnership membership, that makes perfect sense. But if it's a public member, that's where I have that question.
If you give me just a minute, I can pull that up. Johanna, I might need you to remind me where to find it, but
For the maternal, child, and adolescent.
so it's under government and boards, right?
Yeah.
Boards and commissions. So it's under administration? Yeah. No, we're not going into G. I want to go into the online roster. You know, where you update the vacancies we have on the advisory boards? Has that been updated? Yeah, okay, so. Oops, that's not it. Vacancy spreadsheet, I think I just found it. Okay, I'm going to do a share screen, I did find it. So hang on just a moment, Supervisor.
This is for, got it.
Okay, so Supervisor, which advisory board did you want me to scroll to?
Maternal, Child, and Adolescent Health Advisory Board.
Thank you. And there you go. So there are 2 vacant general membership slots.
It says here that we have 3 vacancies. Is there one that expired on that list?
Or someone that stepped down, or, do you know, Johanna or Kim?
Yeah, it's the MCAH.
Oh, yeah, Daphne resigned the chair.
Daphne
Colacion.
resigned. Sorry. Okay, so then the 3 slots are the 2 you see in yellow, and then
Daphne Colacion.
is vacant.
All right. So, Ms. Grant, would the address of the candidate, would that preclude her from, or prevent her from serving on this advisory board, or?
Is it residentially designated?
No, I believe it's fine, and we do from time to time have other people that reside elsewhere.
As long as there's no residence requirement, it should not preclude.
Okay.
But many of these boards do require people to be residents of a particular district or users of a particular service. If there's no such requirement here, then it wouldn't be precluded.
And actually, the way this particular board works is that the maternal, child, and adolescent health group itself appoints their own membership and then sends the applications
To
to you for ratification. The Department of Public Health oversees this board.
All right. With that being said, does that answer your question, Supervisor Sabatier?
Yeah, I apologize for not knowing enough. It's just a question that I wanted to ask just to make sure.
Okay. So I'll go ahead and, if there's any other questions about those positions or applications? Anyone from the public? If not, I'll bring it back to the board for action.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the 3 applications that we've received for the 3 vacancies that we have.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. And so it looks like we have one more, and that is for, let me go to, there it is. Kelseyville Cemetery Board, we need to reappoint Dennis Amendola. And do you have any, no? Are there any questions? I'll open it up to the public. I'm not seeing anybody, so I'll bring it back to the board for action.
Mr. Chair, I move that we appoint Dennis Amendola to the Kelseyville Cemetery Board.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Well, I don't know why. Motion carries. Sorry, I don't know why I said abstained. All right. So the 7.4 is done. Let's see. With 2 minutes to the other. Do we think the 7.2 might go by pretty quickly? Yeah?
What time is it? I think 7.2 needs more time.
More time? Okay. I think everything else would as well. And so since we have 1 minute, I'll just take a brief break, because I don't want to start something and then get further out behind than we need to. We can just start at 10:30 right away. So if you just hold tight for 1 minute, we'll move forward with our 10:30 item, which is the Middle Creek presentation. All right, looks like it's 10:30. So we'll move forward to our 6.7 item, presentation of the current status and next steps for the Middle Creek Flood Damage Reduction and Ecosystem Restoration Project, and B, consideration of the 2022 non-federal sponsor letter of intent and authorize the County Board of Supervisors to sign. With that, it looks like, I'm not sure if Marina, she wasn't here earlier, but I think oh, there she is. She's on Zoom.
Yes, hello, we are making our way down to you. We are running and we will be there at 0.2 seconds if that is okay.
Yep, that's fine.
Awesome, we'll see you guys in a second.
Yes, be careful.
Elevator only goes so fast.
everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Apologies for being tardy. Thank you all for having us. I do have a presentation that I believe Matthew Rothstein is able to share for us. We were dealing with some technical difficulty. Yay. Thank you, Matthew. I appreciate it. So, good morning, everyone.
Would
Thank
you
you
like
so
to
much.
come sit up here?
Oh, yeah. Okay, come on, committee members. I will be joined by two of us, or three of us, so should they sit up here?
Yeah, there's, yeah.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, where did you want me?
You can come sit with Harry right up here. We just,
Sorry, another chair.
Grab that chair.
This one over here. Let me, oh, thank you.
thank you.
Chairman.
Yeah, this is. Hello. All right, it looks like we're squared away. All right, there we go.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you everyone for having us. My name is Marina Delajanis, and I serve as the Deputy Water Resources Director for the Lake County Water Resources Department. I am joined here by some of my colleagues with the Middle Creek Project Committee. I am joined here by Dr. Lyons, who will be helping me present today, and then also Peter Windrum. Both serve on the Middle Creek Restoration Project Committee. And we are here to bring your board, one, an update of the status and next steps for the Middle Creek Flood Damage Reduction and Ecosystem Restoration Project. It is a mouthful, so we will be calling it the Middle Creek Project. And then also we will bring into the board for review and approval of the 2022 letter of intent from the non-federal sponsor. So two items to you, but the first will be a presentation. So with that, next slide, please. All right, so just a very quick overview of our Middle Creek project. Folks, I hope everyone is aware of it. So our Middle Creek project is located in the Upper Lake area of our community. So it is near the Scotts Creek and the Middle Creek. It's located in the Scotts Creek and the Middle Creek watersheds with the confluence of Scotts Creek and Middle Creek, two of the largest tributaries entering our lake. And it makes up for 50% of our Clear Lake watershed. So the project area, as you can imagine, is a huge project area, and it has a large scope. So with these two watersheds, the Middle Creek and the Scotts Creek watershed, they provide 57% of the inflow and 71% of the phosphorus floating into Clear Lake. And the overall project goals is, one, to reduce flood risk in the Upper Lake community, two, water quality improvement, and three, habitat restoration. Next slide, please. So here is the Middle Creek project timeline. As you can see, this project has been going on for a very long time. I'm not going to read this entire timeline for you all. I think my voice would get tired after a few of these key points here, but I would like to highlight a few key dates that have an important aspect of this project. So we'll start from the very beginning, and between 1918 and 1933, the levees were constructed in the project area by private interests. In 1983, the levees failed and the project area was evacuated. So the Army Corps of Engineers did come into the project area at 1958. So a while back after the levees were constructed. And then we also have a few other areas where the project was evacuated. Again, 1986. In 1994, that was the first official public meeting from the community members regarding what is this project, what are the next steps of the project. In 1997, the Army Corps of Engineers did conduct a reconnaissance study, and it was completed and established that there was indeed federal interest in restoring the project area. And I'll be having my colleague, Dr. Lyons, here in a moment tell you about the role of Army Corps with this exact project area. In 2002, the final feasibility report and environmental impact statement was completed. In 2004, the Army Corps completed the project management plan for reconstruction engineering design phase of the project. In 2018, the district was awarded funds from the Army Corps, from the Department of Water Resources, their flood corridor program, for the acquisition of willing sellers, the parcels in this project area. In 2019, the Board of Supervisors elected to establish the Middle Creek Restoration Project Committee. Again, we are here on behalf of that committee to provide an update. And then 2020, we are utilizing the remaining funds that we have, which I will highlight here in a few slides over, for the acquisition of parcels in that project area from willing sellers. Awesome, thank you. And then take it away, Dr. Lyons.
Good morning. The stakeholders and agencies involved are pictured here on this slide. And the most important is the first two, the Army Corps of Engineers and the County of Lake. The Army Corps of Engineers has two functions, and one is military, and the other is civil. And of course, we deal with their civil projects. They have a huge backlog of civil projects. There's $109 billion, $109 billion of civil projects in the queue, and that's 15 times their annual budget. So right away, you see the first element involved with patience with working with them. But they are efficient and they do an excellent job, both in the military aspects and in their civil aspects. What we've been doing, what this committee's been doing, and the coalition before and at the same time, is to make this project as attractive as possible so that it is competitive in the decisions that the Army Corps makes in terms of its annual work plan. And also, we've been in contact with our federal representatives so that when Congress becomes involved, that the shuttling of funds, that funds become available, that they're appropriated. So those are our main jobs with respect to the Army Corps. I wanted to tell you that one of the themes of my working in this project is that it is a project where the work is useful regardless of when it finishes. As far as we've come can't be undone. So in buying the property and making these cultural and biological studies, those don't go away. Feasibility study that Peter's going to talk about in a little bit needs to be updated, needs to be supplemented, but it is its ground floor, and quite a bit of it will not need to be changed. So I just steal your patience with the knowledge that quite a bit of effort has already been made. And a lot of that effort has been made by the County of Lake. And so that second symbol there represents you folks as the heads of the Watershed Protection District. You are, or what's called the non-federal sponsors. And so the Corps, the Army Corps is the lead agency, but you are the non-federal sponsors. And there's some mathematics involved in those titles. The non-federal sponsor is responsible for about 35% of the cost of any project in civil projects with the Army Corps. And then Congress and other coffers that the Corps have available kick in 65%. Standing next to that, over on the right, is Department of Water Resources. And they have been a supply of money for us, the non-federal sponsors, if I can say us. Yes, I'm very proud to be a citizen and a volunteer at the County of Lake. They have been a source of money for land acquisition. $15 million most recently through Cecilia Aguiar-Curry and the Department of Water Resources, and then before that, in previous years, $12 million. So we have some $27 million worth of input, mainly from the Department of Water Resources. As we move forward, the Department of Water Resources loses its chance of serious liability. So the property is purchased, the idea of people being flooded, of agricultural operations being damaged, gets reduced. So we move forward in terms of acquiring a functioning wetland, and at the same time we reduce our liability. The purchase of the land does this, and as I mentioned before, it also makes us more attractive. We want the Corps to dance with us. We got to look cute. And one way of looking cute is by having the property purchased. There are 6 stages in any civil project with the Army Corps, and one of them is property acquisition. and we're going ahead on that. Another is reconnaissance. We've done that. And the third is a feasibility study that has a lot to do with satisfying NEPA, the National Environmental Policy Act, and other agencies' requirements. And that is our next step. And the Department of Water Resources will help us with some funding and getting that ready as well. Very important are the Native people for two reasons. One is, this is historically an area of great importance to them, and currently an area of great importance to them. Secondly, they own property. Third, their input is seriously needed in making sure in the feasibility study and in the actual construction that cultural resources are not damaged. There is an amazing interest by the Army Corps, the Department of Water Resources, and the County of Lake of doing the right thing in terms of cultural resources. And one of the requirements in the next year or so is in the feasibility, finishing the feasibility study, is to get an agreement where different agencies involved agree to do that right thing, to satisfy the State Historical Preservation Officer and the national requirements. The last symbol represents the Middle Creek Restoration Coalition. This is a group of 125 people or so who have voiced interest. Next slide. So this is the dots that represent some of the folks that have signed on to the coalition. And you can see they're all around the county. There's a general agreement among people in all the towns in Lake County that this project is a good idea, whether you live along the lake or not. There's been estimates that it would reduce the nutrient input into Clear Lake by about 10% and immediately, and then eventually maybe 30%. So it's the keystone of the total maximum daily load program that's promulgated by the water boards. It is a main event that is approved by the Blue Ribbon Committee. They have endorsed this plan. So both citizens and agencies see it as a very positive thing. When I meet people in the coalition or people on the street who are just interested in the project, they always say, well, you must be towards the beginning of the end on this project. And I smile and I say, no, we are kind of at the end of the beginning. And I smile broadly because I'm very proud that we're there, because I realize how much work done by almost everybody in this room to get us there. And the Army Corps projects require a great deal of patience and a lot of push, political push, and so we've done quite a lot of pushing, and we'll keep at it. I wanted to mention the letter of intent that we are about to ask you to sign is an annual reminder to the Corps that we are keenly interested in getting this done. There was also a letter sent to Mike Thompson to urge him to put us on the list of priorities for the 5th Congressional District in the reauthorization of the Water Resources Development Act. This is where the big money comes from. So Mike Thompson will keep pushing for us, and at some point he will tell us it's time to go to Padilla and Feinstein. So we work with the House first, then we move to the Senate, and we keep pushing for appropriation. I wanted to turn to Peter if he has anything more to say about the coalition. And thank you.
Thank you very much, Harry. I'd just like to say just a couple of things about the coalition. First of all, we're very proud of the work that we have done and will continue to do for this project. The coalition came together in 2016, that's 6 years ago. At that point in time, this project was dead. There was not activity on this project for several years. The Army Corps wrote a letter to you asking whether or not you really were intending to move ahead with this project, and that was the stand. There was no money. And so we got together, we read with, as Harry says, a group of people created this organization. And the wonderful thing about an organization like that is everybody wants to participate because there's nobody who ever says no. Why should they? It's a wonderful project. And so in meeting with county staff, we held a meeting with the Army Corps of Engineers in Sacramento. The Congressman Garamendi's representative was there, about 6 people from the Army Corps. Harry and I were there, then director of the here from the county was in that presentation, and we made a presentation that this is alive, this is important, and this project needs to go forward. The message to us, obviously, was money. What do we need? We need money. So that became and is still our #1 objective, is to get money for this project. Because no money, no project. And so Will Evans, who was then in this department, told us that DWR had money left over from bond issues that they were trying to figure out what to do with. And there were a number of organizations, entities that were interested. So the question was, could we get it? In-house staff came up with this long report about identifying 70 parcels. There are actually 70 parcels that have to ultimately be required, some not even on this map yet, and because they're outside, across Highway 20 and other locations, so identified those parcels, and that it would take about $15 million at that point in time with the estimates to acquire them. So we approached, in particular, Val Nixon, who was is the president of the coalition, approached Cecilia Aguilar and said, can you help us get this money? Can you help us get this money? And she responded, and wonderfully, as a representative. So anyway, and then we wrote letters to the head of DWR, she did, and we got that $15 million, thanks to Cecilia, but it began with this coalition. That's where it began. And so now our next, after getting the Army Corps engaged again, and Cecilia, and Senator McGuire is anxious to participate. We got Congressman Garamendi's office involved. We have, of course, keeping Mike Thompson appraised, and so forth. We're after money. That's our job, is get money. We got the $15 million. In a sense, our #1 worry, which we wish were not a worry, is that $15 million going to be spent in the deadlines that are given under the contract? Are these properties going to be acquired? And we're desperately concerned about that. And we never thought we would be in a position to be telling you, hey guys, we're in trouble when it comes to spending these money and buying this property. We thought we'd be over to the Corps and just Congress and getting more money. So anyway, that's a quick summary. We're committed and thrilled about this project. We always have been. We appreciate the work that has been done by you, supervisors, and particularly you, Supervisor Crandall, and you, Supervisor Sabatier. Your work has just been indispensable. We would not even be where we are now but for the fact that you took it and are providing that leadership. The same is for staff. Marina, Delajanis, and Daniela Santana, Celia Hoberg, and before them, Eric Seeley and Will Evans. You've had staff members that have been outstanding and worked, and we so appreciate what they do. So anyway, that's the perspective from the coalition, and thank you.
Next slide, please. And then I'm going to pass it back over to Peter just to do a brief update or an overview of the tentative project design.
Is there a way I can point to things on that, or can I just walk up there?
You want to grab the microphone?
Yeah, thank you.
And I think one of the pointers has a red dot on it. I don't know which one.
Yeah, there is one on there.
You can choose. Put the pointer to it.
Here comes.
Oh, yeah.
Sam knows.
Make it easy for you. Oh, thank you.
Oh.
I get to be on the Academy Awards or something like that with this fancy stuff. The orange. Oh, pardon
sorry.
me. Pardon me. Thank you
Long as
very
Will
much.
Smith's not here.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Yes, there it is. Yeah. Sorry. Okay.
There we go.
It comes and goes. The blue lines, let me just comment very, of course, everything that you see in the, surrounded by the dark line is the project area. It's about 1,650 acres. It's huge. By the way, this thing is huge. You have to go out there and walk on those levees to appreciate how enormous it is. This is an enormous project. The blue lines are the ancient channels that went through this area and that are to be restored. And they will come out. Let's see if I can get, let me just point. Right here is, this is, by the way, this is Rodman Slough, where it comes out, catches Middle Creek and Scotts Creek, comes down, and this is Rodman Slough that comes out to the lake. This is the historic outlet for the water through this area. And this area was called Robinson Lake. What you see here, these little speckled blue areas, that's below Zero Rumsey. It's below Zero Rumsey. So it gives you an idea how far down this area and it is. It's not just keeping Scotts and Middle Creek out, it's keeping part of Clear Lake out of this whole area. So when the levees come down, this becomes open water again, has exactly the same level as Clear Lake. And so as you go up with this key here, as the lake slightly moving above Zero Rumsey, you get into these speckled areas that will be tules and wetlands. You will, and then further up in the yellow are little highlands area. There's Bloody Island. Let's see if I can get that highlighted. That spot right there is Bloody Island. And so it's an enormous project. What the Corps will do is that they will come through first and rebuild all this inside, knock down old levees that you see internally, because this is rice land right now. And then they will breach these levees in various locations, levee breach. There'll be a breach here, there'll be breaches here, there are breaches up on that side. And anyway, so it'll get restored. And then it will act as a filter, which is what it's supposed to do. Scotts Creek and Middle Creek, instead of all coming down Rodman Slough, is going to come down through these blue channels. And there's where the phosphorus gets dropped out of the water. That's phosphorus that feeds the blue-green algae, as we all know. And then in terms of my little not big passion is the Clear Lake Hitch. And the Hitch are in extremely terrible trouble. Right now, the numbers are dropped so low that they're predicting that if they would stayed on this same trajectory, that they could be extinct within the matter of just a few years. The Hitch, as you know, is listed as an endangered species by California. There's a petition sent before the federal government to list that was declined 2 months before the administration changed. And the suit's been brought. There's a pretty good likelihood that that may be actually reversed. If it becomes listed, it has an enormous impact on the county and these areas. So anyway, it's really a pretty map. I love it. If you can get your hands on it, there's a vast amount of information. And up there, let me just point one last thing. Again, right up there, well, once again, see the part across the purple line? That's Highway 20, by the way. On that side, there's property there that needs to be acquired, or flowage easements that need to be acquired. They're not even on the list that we're talking. It's on the list of 70 parcels that was put together in-house. But in terms of the ones that are being focused on right now, they're not even there. There are a couple down here, too, that have to be some interest acquired. So anyway, that's the project, and happy to answer any questions if anybody has any.
And then we'll go over to the next slide, please. Yes, of course.
Just wanted to add that that map is also based on the 100-year flood. That way we can make sure and acquire the properties or prevent any damage to other properties once levees are down, because right now the levees is what protects 100-year floods from being able to access those properties.
Thank you for that. All right, so the Middle Creek Project Committee. As stated earlier in the presentation, the Middle Creek Project Committee was established in 2019. This is a board-appointed committee, and members of that committee include Supervisor E.J. Crandall, who serves as the chair, Supervisor Bruno Sabatier, who serves as the vice chair, myself, and then also the Director of Water Resource and Public Works, Scott De Leon, Dr. Harry Lyons, and then Peter Windrum. So this committee, what our vision is the committee's vision is a completed project that protects persons and wildlife and improves water quality of Clear Lake and creates a recreation area for the residents and visitors to Lake County. So some of the highlights that the project has been able to accomplish since its formation was, again, we had a field visit, this is pre-pandemic, with the members of the Army Corps of Engineers to the project area. Also, folks from Garamendi's office and Congressman Garamendi himself. And then Assemblywoman Cecile Aguirre-Curry, we were able to bring him out to the project site. As you can see, there's a picture here from that visit, again, pre-pandemic, good times, and we were able to bring them out to the project site, get hands on, and actually see what we were talking about. So as we've seen from this presentation, this is a big project, there's lots of going on, so it's really nice to be able to get out there and actually see the work that is being done, and just the project boundaries in itself. Other accomplishments that the committee has been able to achieve since its formation is, again, writing and sending over letters of intent, letters of support, and again, and just ensuring that we are maintaining momentum for this project to achieve and accomplish the project at hand. Next slide, please. So we are, this is a public meeting format that we have. So our Middle Creek project meetings meet now on a bi-monthly basis. Our next meeting takes place Monday, June 6th at 10:30 a.m. via Zoom. So every other month, we will meet on the first Monday of that month at 10:30 a.m. via Zoom. We've had these meetings since its formation via Zoom due to the pandemic, so hopefully in the near future we'll be able to meet again safe and sound in person. If you have any questions on this, all this information can be found on the Water Resources website. All the meeting materials, minutes, recordings are on our Water Resources website and on the Water Resources YouTube page. And you can always give us a call at Water Resource at 707-263-2344 or send us an email at water.resources@lakecountyca.gov if you're interested in having anything on the agenda item or following along with that committee. Next slide, please. So I'm going to try and wrap up these next few slides very quickly, as I'm sure there's going to be lots of questions that we may have. So as stated, we have one source of funding right now. The main source that we've been working on is our grant funds that we have been awarded by the California Department of Water Resources. This is through their flood corridor program. This is also the second grant of the same nature that we have received from DWR. And these funds are used entirely for the acquisition of parcels from willing sellers. That is a key word there. These funds that we are using, as Peter gave a brief update on, is for the acquisition of willing sellers. And we have these funds broken down into different tasks. So task 1, funds allocated towards administration. Task 2 is groundwork. Task 3, acquisition. Again, that is our biggest focus right now. Task 4, hydraulic mitigation of U.S. trust lands. And task 5, which is maintenance trust funds. So next slide, please. Here is a breakdown of the funds that we have been able to utilize to date. As I want to highlight again something that Dr. Lyons said is patience, right? So this entire process takes time. We are actively working on utilizing these funds, and we're really hitting the final hour now. As these funds, we were able to receive an extension from the state, thanks to the efforts of the Board of Supervisors, the coalition, and then also just county staff as well. So the main focus of our funds right now are acquisitions cost. With that, I do have I do have the steps of how we need to acquire these parcels. Again, since these funds are being worked through the California Department of Water Resources, we have to check with them every step of the way. So as you can imagine, that does take time. We also have been utilizing a lot of funds from administration as well, and this is able to pay for our staff time that we are actively working on this project. And then another area that I would like to focus that we are seeing a lot of funds to be worked on now is the groundwork. So doing any of the demolitions of the acquired appraisals, cleanup, any spill response, debris, vegetation, et cetera, in that project area to make sure that we can maintain this project. So when we are actually able to get boots on the ground and be shovel ready, that that entire area is ready to do just that. So this is a breakdown as of February 7th. This has been modified slightly since then, as we have seen some appraisals going through the process now, and a lot of efforts have been made from Water Resources staff, so I want to commend them on their efforts for debris cleanup in that area. Next slide, please. Thank you. All right, so again, our biggest focus right now is parcel acquisition. So I have a map here on the left, and this map can be seen in real time on the Water Resources website. I have the link over here on the right. So our staff work very hard to update this map once we are actually to acquire these parcels. So you can see the gray parcels are the ones that are acquired, and then the green and the blue parcels, those are just broken down into the two different consultants that we have working on the parcel acquisition. So these are the priority parcels that we're working on. As Peter had said earlier, there are more parcels in the project area that are outside the project area that are not in contracts right now, because the ones that are actually the parcels in the actual project area are our priority. So again, we are acquiring parcels from willing sellers. If there are not willing sellers, we as a committee have talked about different routes that we could take. That is still in discussion. So our focus right now, since we have grant funding that will be sunsetting soon, is to acquire those parcels. I'm not going to read step 1 through 17 here on the right, and what is not in there is steps, sub-steps, subtasks that are associated with steps 1 through 17. This is the route that we at the county have to follow as required by the California Department of Water Resources. When we acquire these parcels, it takes a lot of collaboration and communication amongst our consultants, our stakeholders, and then also just, of course, the parcel owners, and making sure that everything is squared away with DWR so we can successfully acquire these parcels. Next slide, please. So some of our next steps, again, is just continue to secure project funding. We have a few sources of funding, but again, our biggest source right now that we're working with is the funds that we have from DWR. Continue with land acquisitions. This is our biggest priority because we can't get this project done until we acquire all of the parcels. And as we can see, that does take time, but we are working diligently and getting and continue on with that route. And then, of course, just continue conversations with a variety of stakeholders, including the tribes, PG&E, Caltrans, and Army Corps. So there's a lot of hands in this pot of soup that we are making for this project. And again, just continuing to make sure that everyone is on the same page. We have a close collaboration because it does take all of us to work together to successfully complete this project. Now over here on the right is the 2022 non-federal sponsor letter of intent to the Army Corps of Engineers. Dr. Lyons did highlight that a little bit, so that is what we are bringing to the board today for review and approval, so we can make sure that we continue that communications with the Army Corps that yes, we are still working hard on this project, and it is our intent to see this project to completion. Next slide, please. All right, so I always like to include the information on how you can get involved with the project. Contact us if you have any questions at Water Resources at 707-263-2344. Come say hi to us on the 3rd floor of the courthouse. We are pretty friendly, I think. You can also watch all the previous recordings and check out all the meeting material. We are actively updating the website to make sure that all that material that we discussed and all the previous meetings are there and available for the folks to see. But if you are having trouble finding something, please give us a call and we can send it directly to you or help you walk through the site. So with that being said, my last slide is the non-federal sponsor letter of intent. So I don't know, Chair, I don't know if you want to take questions now or add any input or.
Yes, I would like to, just state that one of the discussions that we have in the Blue Ribbon Committee, and Harry's in attendance quite often with me at that as well, is ideas on how the lake can become its previous state before. And consistently we're pointing them in this direction. This is one of the ideal remedies for the nutrient load. And even when other folks from different agencies, colleges, or whatever bring different ideas, like, you know, to the Blue Ribbon Committee about the lakes, you know, state, it's always brought up that this can work, and let's talk about one specific thing. They were talking about like an oxygenation type of thing, and the bottom line is that the nutrient load is always going to still be a problem, regardless of any type of situation that's put into place to try and remedy it short term. The long term is nutrient load, and this situation right here, this project, is the prime solution for it. And yeah, so just wanted to highlight that. I know being a part of this committee is a great thing. I know, just like Supervisor Sabatier brought up, when we first had this presentation given to us by these two gentlemen, they looked at us with these eyes like, wait, we need you to get involved. And so, you know, Supervisor Sabatier and I definitely appreciate that, the work that you put in. The presentation when we met with Congressman Garamenti was awesome. That was it was really good to see these two gentlemen in their modes, their mojos, and we've seen it today again. So, so yes, staff was right on time with it as well, and I just enjoy being a part of this, and hopefully we can push forward, because like you said, this sunsetting is coming to a quick time frame soon. So, Supervisor Sabatier, if you wanted to add anything.
I just want to add a few things. One is we were thanked for the extension. I just want to clarify that. I think that we need to thank Assemblywoman Aguiar Curry. Her staff automatically listened to us on our needs and our worries about the deadline approaching. The actual deadline has already passed. The original one, it was March of 2022. So that got extended to June of 2023. By the end of June, we need to spend all this money. The deadline is definitely a concern for us, but we're probably going to ask again to see if we can get an extension, just to at least, we have to try. And so at the same time, everything is moving forward. And moving forward is, just want to describe it a little bit more, it's arduous. The process has been slowed down a whole lot, and I'm not a fan of excuses, but it's more of a state of current affairs. State workers do not work in the office. They all work from home. And there's times where we're told, nobody can answer you. They'll be back in a week to check their voicemail. And so we've had a lot of struggle in dealing with the state. And the state has to review our appraisals and submit that back to us saying, yes, we approve the appraisal. Then the state has to approve the sale and actually provide the money to be able to pay for the sale. All those things take a long time. I know that we've seen where we've been approached by Water Resources here in our county asking to front money to pay for properties in hope that the state will pay us soon. It's taken sometimes up to 6 months. And so the process at the state level has absolutely helped us be has not helped us be further along. It's helped us to be a little bit what we feel is concerning and behind. And so I think those are the types of comments we will be making if we ask for an extension, which I believe we will. But we're also working really hard. We've had 2 contractors. We added one when we did our environmental survey assessments that has to start off the process. And then we had 1 contractor doing the appraisal, and now we have 2. And so continuously we're attempting to get the work done that needs to get done, knowing that we have a deadline. We do appreciate the support that we have, both from the board all the way up to the federal. But until, and in our conversations with our federal representatives, until we have all properties acquired, most likely the Army Corps will not budge and allow us to get the appropriations we need to start this project. So it's important that we finish that one part of the project. So just kind of wanted to add a little bit more of understanding of the length of time it takes to accomplish the goals that we have. And our first goals were actually a little bit more difficult than our latter goals for the fact that we're looking at properties that have houses so we can relocate people. And that's a more arduous process than just buying land that's vacant. And that's on the steps that we're taking right now, is on vacant land. So again, a bit more information.
Not to mention Caltrans being a part of it, and you know, yeah, PG&E is one of the other ones that we've been working on as well. And so with the towers running across the midsection of that whole project, they're required to be lifted, and so that's a cost and whatnot. And so we've posed numerous questions, and we're still working on those type of things. And so I can keep going on. I think we all can. But if there's any questions from the board,
Yeah.
yes, Supervisor Pyska.
I so appreciate the volunteers that have been keeping this going. It's such an important project, and had it not been for so many volunteers dedicating themselves to the process, it could have fallen apart at any time. When I met both of you out there several years ago now with the Army Corps, they mentioned at that time that wetland restoration was not among their high priorities. And now I'm wondering if that has changed in light of the drought and the need for more water storage in our lake. If any of those perspectives are changing as the properties get acquired. Just wondering about that.
Actually, the wetland restoration, it is stated as a priority. So I don't know why they said that. I think they enjoy building locks and dredging harbors more. But the fact is that this is a very important part of it. It's a certain fraction. I don't know if Peter, you remember what the budget was, but there's a certain fraction of money that they need to spend on ecosystem restoration. And it's tricky for us because we see this project as a key to improving the water quality in the lake. But that's not their trip. Their trip is restoration, which is good, and flood protection. And so I'd have to take off my lake clarification hat when I talk to the Army Corps. But they shouldn't have said that. The restoration of ecosystems is an important part of the Army Corps' path. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to hear that because they made it very clear that day.
Yeah.
That, if I may comment on it too, it's a legal requirement. It is in federal law, statute, if they undertake a project like this, they must also incorporate ecosystem restoration as part of that. The other thing that I would say is Congress has passed legislation for a vast amount of money for infrastructure, which covers lots of things. One of our challenges when we talk about getting money is to be able to take advantage of that. And that's when you start drifting off, not drifting, but getting into this question, well, should the board have, and the county, have on the payroll as a consultant, someone in Washington who is a lobbyist, if you will, for the county. Every other big jurisdiction does. Now, maybe you can do that through your league of county supervisors, something of that sort. But you need to be at the table. And that's where that table is right now, is in Washington, working with Congressman Thompson's office in order to learn it and be plugged in, because that's where you're looking for the money, for the big money for this project is going to come there. I think that's, one last thing. This project adds to the water storage capacity of Clear Lake. Let me mention that whole area is below zero Rumsey. It's 5,900 acre feet of water that gets stored in this area when the lake is full. And that is a significant amount of water. And so, again, keeping that in mind, apropos what you're thinking about, by doing this project, we increase water storage. That's that can check some boxes for money. Is after all, we adding to the storage capacity. Yuba will love that downstream, and there's some interesting water rights issue in that regard, by the way, allocating that 5,900 acre feet between the county and Yuba, and there's been some work done on that. So, long answer to your question.
And another quick response is it has been prioritized by Congress. I believe it's Congressman Garamendi who requested that this be a priority project. We just need to get to that finish line of acquisition in order to then make those requests, and that priority still exists.
Right.
Vice Chair Scott.
Thank you for the presentation. I think all of us up here realize that this is a very important project for everybody here in Lake County. So my question is, approximately how many holdouts do we have acquiring properties, and when do you think the timeline looks like we will be able to move forward?
That was an aggressive scoot forward, sorry. So with that, we're looking at about, we're dealing with roughly right now 29 different parcels and 17 parcel owners. So the phase that we're at right now is we had a surveyor go out there to look at the project boundary, since the project boundary is based off the FEMA flood maps. So right now, what we are doing is we're getting that final count, and if we have to make any modifications, for example, if initially the project did state, you know, this is a full acquisition or partial acquisition, making sure that everything that we have with DWR, we're all on the same page. So those are the properties that we're dealing with now. The numbers outside of that project boundary that Dr. Lyons referred to, I don't have that number off the top of my head. So our focus is to acquire those remaining parcels, the 29 that I mentioned, by the sunsetting of these funds on this current round. Now, keep in mind, not all of those sellers may be willing sellers, especially depending on the differences of the project boundaries based off of the surveys. So again, making sure that we engage in communication with those parcel owners. So figuring out that scope, that's what we're working on now to refinalize that, and prioritizing those that are willing sellers, because again, these funds can only be used for willing sellers.
Can I comment too? If you know somebody who owns property up there, would you please encourage them to sell it to us? And there's one, is it okay if I mention the Buddhist property? I think I'll do that. There's, on the big map, there's a very big blue piece of property down in the lower left-hand corner, and that's owned by the Dharma Realm Buddhist Association. And they're very, very reluctant to sell it, even though it's a critical piece for this whole project. So call on your friends in that association to lobby for us, would you please? So, thank you.
Yes, and not to mention the agencies and the willing sellers, those different moving parts. But there's also, you know, I didn't mention this earlier, but I know Harry mentioned the tribes. That's where I first learned about it on the tribal council when I was in Robinson Rancheria. Was this project was back in the 2000s, and Irene Aquitiquit was the EPA director at the time, and she'd bring it forward and we'd discuss it, and didn't realize it was basically almost in the same state it was back then. So that's another thing though, because we do have these stakeholders coming, different tribes, and they have their concerns, and we also have public concerns that are very intense, but for good reason. And so Water Resources has to manage not just working with us in doing this work, but also when we're in those meetings, you know, the temperature of those meetings and the demands, which are you know, legitimate demands at times, or get quite overwhelming. But you know, we're going to get through it, and just wanted to highlight some of that as well. So yeah. Is there any other questions for committee? And I think we're on the letter of intent, right? And so I know it's item B, and so would like to, do you want to bring that up? Do we already talk about it enough, or do we need to bring it up and look at it real quick? And yeah.
It's just a statement of our interest and intent, but it also updates the Army Corps on what we've done in the last year.
Right.
So it's a...
All right. Is there anyone from the public that has any comments or concerns, questions? I know that there's, did you?
I'd like to read it.
Oh, she'd like to, okay.
It's been attached to our agenda since our agenda came out.
Is there anyone in the chambers that would like to come up and speak on behalf of this item?
And Mr. Chair, she can request a copy of it at the administrative front desk if she'd like to.
Okay. All right, I'm not seeing anyone in the chambers. And I don't see any hands up in the Zoom room, so I'll bring it back to the board, and we'll move forward with the action on the letter.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the 2022 non-federal sponsor letter of intent and authorize the Lake County Board of Supervisors to sign.
Second.
So I have a motion by Supervisor Sabatier and a second by Supervisor Pyska. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you very much for the presentation and for the work you do on this project.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right. So we'll go ahead and go for a break, I think. Does that sound okay? Take a 5-minute break, and we'll be back at 11:30. Well, 8-minute break. How about that? All right. We are back from the break. We're going to move on to our next item on the agenda, which is 7.2. It's our non-timed item. Consideration of resolution confirming the highest priority project for submittal to the Community Project Funding Program that includes the Lakeport Armory Facility Repurposing Project. And I'll give this over to CAO Hutchinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you well know, Congressman Thompson provides an incredible amount of support to Lake County, and most recently, he and his staff have reached out to us about another opportunity to submit a special project for funding. And so Assistant CAO Susan Parker is here to present to you what staff is proposing for this next round.
Great. Thank you, Carol. Good morning, Board. On March 22nd, we received a fiscal year appropriations project solicitation letter from the U.S. Representative Mike Thompson with a deadline to submit by April 11th. This year, the Congress members can submit up to 15 different projects. Given the short turnaround time, we propose for your board's consideration to resubmit the Lakeport Armory Facility Repurposing Project for $1 million to the Subcommittee on Transportation, Housing, and Urban Development. Many of the federal programs have different requirements, such as placement on eligibility lists, state transportation improvement plans, transportation plan, population size, and the ability to obligate the funding within a year of the award, which makes it difficult for non-shovel-ready projects. Since submitting this item for board consideration, we received an email from Congressman Thompson's office extending the deadline to April 15th. However, the Armory package is ready to go and can be submitted well before the deadline. Yesterday, I received an email from Congressman Garamendi's office and asking about the Lucerne Harbor Dredging Project. So we reviewed the eligibility list, but did not find that it was eligible for submittal this year. And that's my report. And we do recommend the Armory, and we have all the support letters, everything needed, and actually to submit it on a timely fashion.
Thank you. Just had a quick question. Supervisor Sabatier, you want to go ahead and go first? Well, I was just going to, the Lucerne Harbor is already funded. We were just looking to, in case the Garamendi would fund it, then we would, yeah. Just want to make sure that's highlighted, so I don't.
To utilize these funds.
Right.
So the original funds are in place.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to highlight that in case maybe one of the citizens heard it different.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good.
Supervisor Sabatier?
I'm glad to hear that we received an email, because that was my questions yesterday, is we should take advantage of our split county by having 2 representatives, and each representative being able to offer 15 projects. Don't want to take away the project that's being offered for Thompson to push. I think that's a necessary project for us to complete. It has a county impact, not just an impact in Thompson's district. But I would love to, since we have until the 15th, which is another 10 days, is what projects in Garamendi's area are available? Are there road projects? Are there sidewalk projects? Is there anything we can do for, I know that Thompson just did something over in Kelseyville with the safe routes to schools. There's something we can do in Lucerne or Upper Lake for our schools. I'd love to not lose an opportunity to at least ask with the insurance that it doesn't sidetrack the Armory project and that it gets replaced with what I really want to make sure that it has that prioritization for the Armory. But I feel if we don't ask for something from Garamendi, that we're also not getting anything, or don't open up an opportunity to get something. So that would be my only ask, is yes, to move forward with what we have in front of us today, but within the next 10 days, which I don't think we can create a project, but I hope that we have something that maybe we can pull out off the shelf and just move forward with, because I think that the entire district that Garamendi represents is the city of Clear Lake area, and the entire North Shore, and I just want to make sure that we try to get whatever we can happening out there.
If I may, with the extension, I'll reach out again to different department heads to see if they have anything shovel-ready that we can quickly turn around.
Right.
So.
I have a question. I don't want to muddy the waters, but because we do have 2 congressmen, our county is split. Is the Armory actually in Thompson's district? Because I live in the North Lakeport area and Garamendi's my congressman. So I don't know if that is an issue at all, but I just wanted to put it out there.
No, I spoke with them, and they're willing to carry it for us.
Okay.
And what happened last year, just for a little background, when we submitted the what is it, the street project, the 2.2 million chip and seal, it was actually a shared Congressman Thompson's office approach, Garamendi's office, to get a joint support for that item. Unfortunately, it wasn't on any eligibility list, so I didn't go farther than the subcommittee.
I wonder if we could look for joint support on this project too, because it is in his district, and if Congressman Thompson is willing to carry it.
We can always ask. Yes.
Supervisor Simon?
Obviously, in support of moving forward with this project. Thank you. With this project today, but right along with Supervisor Sabatier and also team, just making sure that we're maximizing everything. I think for me, the one project, obviously, we've all been approached by as we're being on the board is the road. So hopefully, I know we do have a feasibility study coming from Public Works about the roads. So I'm hoping we'll have some ideas to move forward with those, if it's not this season, but at least we're moving forward with that master plan for all the roads in the county. So I'm thinking that's coming back sooner than later, and it may even be before that deadline. So these are shovel-ready projects, and maybe we'll have some more in that aspect next week. So complete favor of this proposal today. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so I'll open it up for the public if there's any questions from the public. Please come on up, state your name for the record. You have 3 minutes.
John Moss, I haven't studied this item, so I'm just asking probably a silly question. What does repurposing mean? What purpose will it be changed to? Thank you.
The repurposing of the armory is going to be the new, the Sheriff's Department's facilities.
It's going to change into a sheriff's department?
Yes, that's the intent. Thank you. All right, I don't see anyone else in the chambers with any questions. Did you have anything else to add to that, Susan?
I do. Well, it also may include the Emergency Operations Center.
Oh, that's right. That's right. The Emergency Operations Center, EOC. Yeah. And I don't see anybody online on Zoom raising their hand, so I'll bring it back to the board for action.
Mr. Chair, I'll offer the resolution.
The resolution has been offered. Johanna, can you conduct the roll call, please?
Supervisor Sabatier?
Aye.
I'm sorry, I did that wrong. Supervisor Simon?
Aye.
Supervisor Sabatier?
Still aye.
Supervisor Scott?
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska?
Yes.
And Supervisor Crandall?
Aye.
Thank you.
So then, Mr. Chair, just to clarify, we'll be back on your agenda next week with an update if we're successful coming up with another project in Garamendi's district.
I'll reach out to you as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank you.
Good work.
Yeah. Okay, let's see here. So we'll move on to item 7.3, consideration of reforming the internal county comprehensive drought planning work group to meet the requirements of Senate Bill 552. And this is, I'll give this to CAO Hutchinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wondered if we could ask Ms. Delagianis if she would like to come up and join this discussion. Rena, could you come up? So I prepared this agenda item as a follow-up to a discussion your board had recently when Deputy Director Delagianis gave her latest drought update to your board. And you talked about the internal comprehensive drought planning workshop that you formed last year. It's comprised of Supervisors Pyska and Sabatier and a number of county department heads whose work overlaps with drought. And during that drought report that you received a few weeks ago, you contemplated possibly reforming that committee for a couple of reasons. First of all, to make it a public committee that the public could come in and have input to, but also to meet the requirements of SB 552. And I asked Marina if she could join us because she's far more an expert in these areas than I am. The original work group that you formed was put together to do fact-finding, priority setting, and take action in the areas of proactive steps to adapt to climate change and ongoing drought conditions, addressing and managing water shortages, short and long-term sustainability plans, drafting updates to applicable policies, etc. And so really the discussion before you today is, do you want to broaden the focus of this work group to meet the requirements of Senate Bill 552 and also to make it a public-facing meeting? And attached to your agenda packet is the actual SB 552. And if you flip to, let's see, the second page of that document, it's the very first full paragraph on the second page. It talks about the requirement for a county to establish a standing county drought and water shortage task force to facilitate drought and water shortage preparedness. And it is for state small water systems and domestic wells within the county's jurisdiction. And so, in fact, that work group, it looks like that task force should have been established before now. So anyway, there is no specific requirements as to the kind of seats that should comprise this task force, and so your board would need to give some thought to that, and Deputy Director Deligiannis may have some thoughts on that as well. So that's basically the item, and at this point I defer to Supervisors Pyska and Sabatier.
Yeah, the intent of this work group was to be proactive, work on sustainable practices, look at policy, everything that CAO mentioned. And the intent was to do that work internally at first and then bring it to the public. But I think where we are now, this is a strategic move for us to make to fulfill the requirements for this bill and kind of get back to that work. So I really appreciate Deputy Director Deligiannis being here today and kind of walk us through what that would look like, and hopefully you would be supporting that committee.
Yes, so hi everyone. Thank you for having me here today. So going off of what Carol said and then Supervisor Pyska, so I did present a few weeks back, it seems like a while ago, but it wasn't that long ago, an update on current drought conditions with the county, and I did highlight Senate Bill SB 552, and this was approved by the governor on September 23rd, 2021. So as of now, we are in compliance with that Senate bill, but that is just the start, right? So we do technically have the drought task force. We have a few different drought task force groups that we have. So the committee that was elected and formed by the Board of Supervisors is in compliance of the Senate bill, but there's still a long road ahead of us to make sure that we remain in compliance. So one thing that I did inform Supervisor Pyska on is we have been in close collaboration and communication with the state for over a year now. So they knew that this was coming down, and they have been in coordination with us. So over a year ago, the state Department of Water Resources and the State Water Resource Control Board, they had Civic Spark Fellows come and create a drought task force, which is a working group, and folks in those groups, we met on a monthly basis, and we talked a little bit about SB 552 near the end of it as they were still in formation, but that was the whole focus as to why they developed this drought task force, to get the input from different water suppliers, tribes, agriculture, the county, cities, etc. So we talked about how drought is impacting each of these different water uses and users at the variety of levels. So again, we are still in close collaboration with the state, and I would just like to highlight some aspects of SB 552. So as Carol mentioned, we do not have the specifics in and outs of how we need to remain compliant. The state is in the process of deciding that. So again, that's why it's so important that we remain communicative with them. But basically, we are in compliance right now, but we still need to figure out how to get there. So with that, we at the Drought Task Force, so whether we decide to reorganize and reseat this committee that the county has formed, we can do that. I do have some ideas of who needs to be there and different approaches that we can take to make sure that we maintain compliance. But with that, they look at different requirements for small water providers providers, and then also the county. So the bill would require a county to develop a plan that includes potential drought and water shortage risk and proposed interim and long-term solutions as provided. Because the bill would impose additional duties on counties, the bill would impose a state-mandated local program. So not only is the state giving us requirements of things that we have to fulfill to remain compliant, they are in the process of providing outreach materials, support tools, whether it be grant funding or different resources that we here can use to make sure that we remain compliant. So it is the intent of the state to remain engaged with us, make sure that we remain compliant with the SB 552, but also that we are able to develop a drought plan, mitigation plan, et cetera, and water shortage contingency plan that is catered to our community, and also thinking broadly of the different aspects of our community, right? So we know that aquifers act different, parts of the county are impacted by drought differently, as we shared in the last presentation. So with that, again, we have 3 different groups that are focusing on drought throughout the county. So we have the 2021 Drought EOC. We have the Lake County Comprehensive Drought Planning Work Group, which was developed by the Board of Supervisors, and then the group that was developed by the AmeriCorps Civic Spark Fellows and the California Department of Water Resources is the Lake County Drought Task Force Work Group. So one thing that I would like to bring to the board, and again, we can't vote on it, but just an idea that I have, since this Lake County Drought Task Force Work Group, which was developed by the AmeriCorps Civic Spark Fellows, and that's where we actually have the California Department of Water Resources, our representative who is tasked with filling out all the requirements of SB 552 is our point person. They do participate in these calls. We've had a lot of great conversations among this work group. There could be a possibility where that work group serves as an advisory committee to the Lake County Comprehensive Drought Planning Work Group. I think that would be a good approach to take. Since we do have a variety of uses and users, all the water purveyors are in participation of that drought task force. We have representatives from the tribal communities. We also have representatives from the cities, states, ags, nonprofits, et cetera. So we have the right people at that table who I think could advise the board, especially the Lake County Comprehensive Drought Planning Work Group, different information that we've been compiling and research that we've been doing and whatnot for the past year or so to make sure we maintain compliant.
That's a great idea. And it appears from the outside that we've got these 3 separate silos. So bringing in that task force as an advisory committee makes a ton of sense and has that synergy that we really need right now. Great, thanks for that.
Supervisor Sabatier?
I have a question for Supervisor Pyska and Supervisor Simon. I just want to make sure that we're not overlapping or duplicating work. What is the RRA's actions regarding drought? Because it's a risk, and so just kind of curious if the RRA has kind of started conversations about drought or had conversations about drought, and would it be an umbrella for this type of committee where all risks that we're aiming to mitigate and be prepared for would, that the task force that we're talking about would go back to the RRA to provide the advisory or provide the information that they've recovered? Just kind of curious if that's another way to look at it. I just want to make sure we're not, again, splitting off, where we end up having conversations that we were thinking, maybe I can't have that conversation with you.
Yeah, I think there's the potential for that happening, getting everything kind of vertically integrated here. We've brought on the water purveyors, and we brought on cities, but...
I think, Anita, did you have something?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
The Risk Reduction Authority is a separate independent entity, so you don't really have to worry about overlap in that sense any more than you'd have to worry about it with any other independent separate entity. And so you can't really dovetail the county's obligations under this legislation. You can coordinate efforts with the RRA all you want to, but your choices here are a standing committee or the alternate process that the legislation discusses. And that's an obligation on the county's part, not the RRA's part. So I just wanted to make sure that the terminology was clear. I don't think that's what Supervisor Sabatier is saying, but just in case the public misunderstands.
Thank you. Sorry for interrupting. You want
Thank you for that clarification, Anita, as we move forward with this. So, you know, collaboration is what the RRA is for, but we'll switch the terminology too. When we started the RRA, we talked about an umbrella organization, but through the CMAP process, it's been saying, you know, we're going to flip it over. We're a supporting process of everything that's going on. And we did kind of rethink that as we went through our CMAP process, that the RRA is just another place that we're going to have those discussions with the water purveyors as we move through this process through drought. So I thank you for clarifying that, Anita.
Yeah. I think there's a potential for some conversations to, you know, be difficult if we, you know, to be Brown Act compliant, but I don't think that that's a reason to change the committee makeup.
Yeah. All right. Do you have another question? Or?
No, not at the moment. I was just curious, Supervisor Simon, would you like to take my spot on this committee so that there is no weirdness about between the conversations happening at the RRA and the conversations happening for this task force that we're talking about? Just a question to see if it makes it easier. I don't mind being on the committee. I think that it's definitely an interesting and important topic to tackle. But again, because of both of your activities on the RRA, I just wanted to ask at least.
I appreciate the request, but at this time I would decline. No.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, it's the same conversations we're having with the Ag Committee. Drought is affecting all of us, so I think we're fine.
All right.
And I like the suggestion being brought about a group that already has brought together many of the stakeholders, because this is not something that we can do in a silo. We really need to have the collaboration of as many groups that are impacted by this and who have the ability to make those changes in order to conserve water, be prepared for drought. So I like that suggestion.
Yes. Is there anyone from the public that has any comments or would like to comment on this? I'm not seeing anyone. I have somebody online, Betsy Kahn, if you can unmute, and we'll give you 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and the board and everybody there. I have two concerns about this. First of all, the representative of the public water systems at the Risk Reduction Authority does not represent the other forms of water purveyors, some of whom will have to contend with the lake conditions should the lake develop extreme cyanobacteria loading. And if you recall, last year the tribes determined that there was an exceedance of the microcystin element in the water, and the Office of Emergency Services cooperated by producing a Nixle alert to let everybody know. But the constituent on the Risk Reduction Authority only represents public water systems, and there are a lot of other ones involved in this. In the incident that happened in 2004 with the city of Toledo, Ohio, 400,000 people were forced to get water from as far away as 120 miles. So in 2014, when we had a real Office of Emergency Services drought task force, the water purveyors of all forms got together to discuss having a backup mutual aid agreement to supply water, fresh water from groundwater basins in the event that the lake could not be used. I don't see any evidence of that happening. Secondly, the fact that the Risk Reduction Authority has this input from the public water systems does not address the extreme need for assistance to improve and upgrade and replace fire hydrants and fire suppression flows, and that is one of the biggest hazards that we have. So I would ask you to consider including those major concerns in your formation of however you decide to go about this. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see anyone else online with their hand up, but I will ask again. Actually, I see somebody in the chambers with their hand up. If you would like to come up, you have your 3 minutes. Please come up and state your name for the record.
Joan Moss. I've been watching the Supervisors and Dewey News for a long time. And I have come to I've observed that the EPA and the USGS has conflicting terms. The EPA calls it cyanobacteria, and the USGS calls it methylmercury. And I intend to write my congressional representatives and clarify what is what. Because I think there's a change of terms that is diverting the public from the seriousness of the nutrient load. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, I will close public comment and bring it back to the board. Supervisor Pyska?
So the part we didn't get a chance to discuss was the makeup of this new committee and the seats that should be filled, and I was hoping you had some suggestions about that.
Yeah, so again, as we stated with the advisory committee, so there's a lot of people that are affected by drought, right? And this is going to look differently for everyone, so it's important to have a representative to ensure that all voices are heard and can advocate for the different user groups that are impacted. So whether it be small water purveyors, I really appreciated the comment from Betsy Kahn about, fire suppression, et cetera. So making sure that that voice is on the table as well. But in terms of the makeup that we have for the committee that was developed by the board, I think there's a solid representative group there. I can't recall if environmental health and community development are on that committee, but I think it's crucial for them as well in terms of just drought planning, because the focus of the bill is to ensure that we do, be proactive, but also reactive as well. So we'll also have to develop a plan that if drought is impacting us, so 3 years now, how are we gonna tackle that? But in terms of the work group that was developed by the Civic Spark Fellows, there was a great diversity of stakeholders in that call, and I think if we continue to keep that in an open format, so we can have also interested parties call into those, hear from those folks as well, and make sure that they have a platform as well. And in that committee, we can have a representative from that committee bring to the advisory group that is developed by the board, here's what we have to say. And we've done that previously, and we saw that the past year that we've done that, that was a really good segue into doing that. And I was the lucky volunteer who was able to bring the input, the guidance. One of the letters that we brought to the board way back when about the drought, here are some of our concerns, we were able to bring that to the Board of Supervisors pre the formation of this committee. And that was a format that worked very well for us. And there was a lot of input from that advisory committee that they liked, that it was just a group of interested stakeholders. We had a schedule. Here's where we're planning on meeting. We at Water Resources set up the Zoom, and we did facilitate those calls. So anyone could hop in and call on at any point of time. So I'm not quite sure how that will be impacted by Brown Act compliance. So I'll be leaning on legal and whatnot for that expertise. But since that was a group that was not appointed by a board, it was just a group of interested stakeholders, we could bring those, any sort of suggestions or concerns to the actual appointed group that is formed now, which again, I think that we have plenty of seats on that. But of course, it's not up to me, and I'm always open to hearing any other suggestions or ideas.
So those task force meetings were public?
Yes.
Okay, and they've been public.
But with that, I do acknowledge we need to make sure that, because since the schedule, so once those fellows left, it kind of fell down into the crevices. Sure. And it was hard to, it's like, who's going to take this over? Who's going to be the lead for this? So again, we didn't have that designated lead. But I'm hungry and I put it on my plate. So we were able to continue on with those meetings, and that's something I'm willing to continue accommodating and being of assistance with, to make sure that if that is the route that we do take, to make sure that folks are aware of the meeting schedule, we have those available to the public, Zoom links, et cetera. And we do meet via Zoom, so that, is one, just to make it easier for everyone calling in and whatnot around the lake, so.
Yeah. Well, that's great. It has been difficult for us to keep this committee going because we didn't have a lead, and because of the other departments are heavily impacted with other work right now. So really appreciate you picking this up. And there's been a request brought to us at the Ag Committee where they want to participate, and I know there's a lot of other members from the public and different organizations that are looking for this place where we can have these discussions. So I'm really grateful for you to picking this up and looking forward to those meetings. Are we thinking monthly meetings now?
Yeah, so that's, we were meeting monthly, but we moved it to quarterly. So I'll have to check to see when our next plan discussion is, and then I'll work with DWR, because during that discussion, we'll make a post on Facebook and we'll get that word out there to make sure that folks are, if they have any questions, if they want to be on that listserv. Again, there is a lot of restructuring we have to do because a lot of that was under the Civic Spark Fellows. So I'll work with the state to make sure that I have all that information that was developed by the Civic Spark resources.
Great, thank you so much.
CEO Hutchinson?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I wanted to propose what might be a reasonable next step to actually form this new body. And, you know, because right now we're talking about the potential seats conceptually, but probably the next best step would be if Director Deligianis could follow up with an agenda item next week or the week after, as soon as you can get to it, recommending the actual slots. And then once your board approves that, then we would be in a position to start advertising to fill those. You would probably want an assortment of standing appointments, including, you know, the original folks, and I think our esteemed council has advice too.
Always, you know. Your board has an alternative here to establish a standing county drought and water shortage task force, or to establish an alternative process. So your board's going to have to consider which of those two. So if staff could make that recommendation, and I would say a standing task force is going to be Brown Act compliant. So your Zoom meetings can't be just for convenience. They would have to fall under statutory parameters. And you're going to have to develop certain meeting protocols, which is easily done. It's just your board's going to have to decide which way you want to go, or if you want staff to present both options to you in more detail next time so that you can consider how you would prefer to move forward.
All right.
And we could definitely do that. When we bring this back to the board, we can lay out both options to make sure that we consider all viable options to move this forward.
Supervisor Sabatier?
So I just wanted to at least provide what I believe, I don't know if it would be members, but definitely stakeholders that I think are important. So I'm just going to read out the list. Tribal representation, ag representation, school representation, golf course representation, parks representation, business representation, and water purveyors. My goal when we created this committee a while back is everybody needs to pitch in. When we're asking for conservation, it shouldn't just be who wants to conserve, is what are we supposed to do to conserve? And to me, that kind of surround water purveyors hits the rest of our community members, and I think that those titles that I just read out kind of covers the majority of our communities. And maybe I'm missing something, but at least in my opinion, that's who I want to be involved in this, so that we can get their buy-in to whatever the plan is, so that they can go ahead and act on that plan when we're in a drought such as now.
All right, I've closed public input, so from here forward, I think it looks like we need to, I lost it.
And if I may.
Yes.
While it might be messy, I think that the standing committee is probably the better way to go. It might be messy for the fact that we might be throwing out and spitballing some thoughts and ideas, but at the same time, I think it makes the public be more have a better option for participation and be better aware of what it is that we are attempting to accomplish, rather than having behind closed door meetings to eventually come up with a plan that the public's not quite aware of how we got to that point. So I'm perfectly fine with the potential messy type of conversations, which I think is what's going to get us to the right point of where we need to be.
Okay. So I think we will take action, or do we need to wait? I know we talked about something.
I don't believe there's any action to take, but you can look forward to a future agenda item. And,
right.
and Deputy Director, I'm willing to help you too. Let me know how I can support you.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Board.
And so is she.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you guys will get emails from me, don't worry. Thank you so much. If there's any questions at a later date, you guys can always call us and we can talk about drought. But looking forward to coming back to you guys.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much. All right. We'll move to our 7.5. Sitting as the Lake County Housing Authority Board of Commissioners, consideration of First Amendment to the 2021 agreement to develop affordable housing by and between the Lake County Housing Authority and the Rural Communities Housing Development Corporation, and B, consideration of request for an audit. And so with that, the Supervisor Sabatier, I see your name, and County Council, I see your name as well. I don't know if you wanted to start, Anita? You start, yeah. Sorry.
I believe that our CAO is going to have an announcement for you before either of us can start.
Okay, I apologize. I just
No,
seen their names at the
you
top
didn't
of it.
No, normally, I would start unless the Supervisor Sabatier wanted to have first go, but there's a complication.
There we go.
There is an unfortunate complication. As you can see, this item indicates that you are sitting as the Lake County Housing Authority Board of Commissioners. And when you sit in that capacity, you also have the 6th member of your board present, the resident advisory board member from the Section 8 program. Most often, these types of agenda items are sourced from DSS. This one was not, because there are other matters that the Housing Authority deals with, and staff did not contact the resident advisory board member, and because that person is not here today, we need to continue this item to next week, and I apologize for the inconvenience.
Okay. So with that, we'll continue that to next week. Should I still take public input, just in case?
Yes.
Open it up for public input. I'm not seeing anybody, and I don't see anybody on Zoom. I'll bring it back to the board, and we will continue this item next week. All right. So this brings us back to calendars, and so we've covered all of the consent agenda items that have been pulled, yes, and then I think, yep. So calendars, so we'll go ahead and start with Supervisor Sabatier.
Thank you very much. Let's see, my Wednesday cleared up since we have a canceled meeting for LTA. I am touring on Thursday with, it's not good that I don't remember their name. After the Fire, I think, is the new name that is correct. I'm touring them around with them at the Cache Fire area, just to kind of get a glimpse at what it's been a while since they've come by. And so going to meet them out there and give them a quick tour. Having a meeting with our, I believe this is Blue Zones. Been taking part in those meetings, having another one on Thursday evening. Clear Lake City Council is happening also that night, and something, Friday looks pretty clear. Can't get back to it. Yeah, Friday's clear at this moment. On Saturday, I will be, I believe it's on Saturday, we'll be joining a fundraiser happening for special education students for Canocta Unified School District. There'll be a car show as well as lots of food and a lot of other activities as well, so come out. And I'm going to try and join a emergency personnel barbecue happening at the Armory on Monday, meet with our CAO, and get prepared for a meeting on Tuesday. So far, somewhat of a light load, and also have a pegboard meeting on Monday evening as well.
All right. Supervisor Pyska?
Yeah, I have, over the I think it was 2 weeks ago, there was a state wildfire and forest resiliency task force webinar, which is set up quarterly, and the next one is the beginning of May, which is going to be in person in Sonoma, and I'm really hoping that Supervisor Simon will join me. This executive committee has Secretary Crowfoot and CAL FIRE directors, and you may have seen the press release earlier this week that the governor is rolling out. The strategy with this task force is to treat 1 million acres a year. It's a really lofty goal. RCRC is part of this, and there's so many working groups, but what was surprising and disappointing is that there was no mention of tree mortality at all. So I need to figure out how to get that message to all these working groups. I've been making a bunch of phone calls and lots of emails trying to get that issue on the radar. It has, the situation has pretty much doubled in my district in the last couple months. There isn't an area in my district that's not impacted right now. I'm trying to schedule another CAL FIRE flyover. It looks like that might be in May now. Just trying as hard as I can to get this on everybody's radar because we desperately need some help with this. For this week, tomorrow I have the TID board meeting in the morning, then my meeting with the after the fire. Then I'm going to be meeting with a constituent from the Horse Council in Boggs. And Thursday, I'm going to be in Ukiah for the CSAC Finance Conference. And Friday morning, the Home Hardening Weekly Meeting. Saturday, I will be at Mike Thompson's Ravioli Feed in the evening. And Sunday, there's a photography show at Four Family Winery, which I'll be at there Sunday. Monday, I have my meeting with Carol. I'm already going to be at the Armory because I'm doing my tour, so I will also be at the Public Safety Barbecue. And then back here on Tuesday.
All right. Supervisor Simon?
Yeah, after today's meeting, I think that we're going to try to get together with CAO and also Supervisor Pyska to have a conversation about tree mortality. And then, as Supervisor Bate said, our LTA and APC meeting has been canceled for Wednesday, and going to have an open calendar till Friday. We have the weekly planning meetings. I missed the last few of those, so I'm going to get back on that. On Saturday, too, I think I'll be attending the ravioli dinner, too, for Congressman Thompson. And then back here on Monday for a meeting with Carol and the meeting on Tuesday. I would like to report that we did also have our Workforce Alliance in North Bay meeting. We've been trying to do that, kind of had to be rescheduled a couple times, but you know, it's always great to hear the updates from Bruce Wilson as we move through that. Each year we'll be trying to bring him here to do a presentation to the board, but there are some exciting things happening down with the fire department in Marin, where they're doing a training program with young folks who may be looking to get into the fire industry, vocational training. I think they have about 18 folks that are going through a program, and we talked about that for the regional, bringing it to all the counties. It's a pilot program that looks real exciting, and I know me and Supervisor Pyska will hopefully have those presentations as we move forward and opportunities in the future. So like we talked about, you know, during disaster or you know, events that are negative, such as a drought and the fires we've had, always look at opportunities to create an economy to work through that program. And this is, I think, a step towards that direction, and you know, a workforce to help us do that, because we're going to be dealing with it for a decade, if not more, as we move through all the challenges that are coming with the climate change that's happening, or the adaptation of the earth that's happening right now. So just wanted to report on that, so. Also, one other update, in the last couple weeks, I did also join Congressman Thompson to talk about, issues and collaborations between all agencies from the federal, state, and the local levels as moving through disaster and response. And we'll hopefully be putting some recommendations with the help of some of our chiefs here to him to get back to how we can coordinate better during disasters and emergencies as we're moving forward. So I'll give you guys an update when I have something to report on that also.
Thank you, Supervisor Simon. Vice Chair Scott?
Yes, tonight I'll be attending the City of Lakeport's council meeting, and I have a pretty open calendar myself. Thursday, 11 o'clock, a meeting with Supervisor Crandall and a representative from the state. And then on Friday at noon, Wellville Gathering. We're going to be wrapping that up soon because they'll be coming here next month. We'll be meeting then. On Saturday, I'll be actually going down to San Jose. It's Parents' Day at my daughter's college, so I'll be going down there. And then hopefully making it back for the Four Family Vineyards art show on Sunday at 2. And then just preparing for the meeting for Tuesday.
Supervisor Sabatier, you mentioned.
I missed something. I just wanted to make sure and inform the board and the public as well. We did have an important LAFCO meeting, our special meeting on last Wednesday, and it was decided to go ahead and move forward with a protest hearing. The protest hearing has not started yet. That's being worked on, but the local registered voters in the annexation area, as well as the parcel owners, property owners, will have the ability to file written protest votes. And so that information on the process will be coming out soon, and everyone within the annexation area will be receiving a letter to explain the process and how they can go ahead and file a protest vote. But just wanted to at least alert you, since we went through the whole tax sharing agreement and everything, that is the process it is now taking. And so no word on annexation, if it's a go or if it's been denied. It's now in the hands of the people who are in that annexation area.
Thank you. All right. So for me today, we'll just finish this meeting, and then tomorrow I have East Region Town Hall, where we'll be conducting the Roadmap Task Force will be conducting their first presentation at the Moose Lodge. It's the monthly Earth meeting that's take place at 4 p.m. usually. And so they'll pretty much be giving the floor to the Roadmap Task Force to discuss the parameters and how they'll be moving forward in regards to working in Clear Lake Oaks with that. So that's going to be an exciting thing. Following that, I have the CSA meeting in Spring Valley. That's at 7 p.m. Thursday, I have a meeting. It's called the Cal 20 Village. I've been meeting with local constituents that are working with departments on a water situation out in Upper Lake. And so it's been a monthly meeting I've been attending with Peter. And so I've been doing that. Our governor's office meeting that Supervisor Vice Chair Scott mentioned earlier, we'll be doing that. It's been pushed back quite some time, so glad we'll be able to conduct this meeting. Let's see. Friday, I'll be meeting with some seniors in my district. Monday, CAO meeting first and foremost. Public Health, I'll be meeting with Jonathan at Public Health at 9 on Monday. And where is this barbecue?
Armory.
At the Armory, so they're having the barbecue, they're having it, okay, all right. I'd like to see if I can go to that too. I'm not sure how that works out, but we'll figure it out. And then back here on Tuesday for our Board of Supervisors meeting, so.
If we just eat and don't discuss anything, it's perfectly fine.
I'll sit at a different, yeah, we'll do it like that. But yeah, no, that sounds great. And yeah, and the only thing I can add on from previous was I think it was let me go back to the 24th, we actually had the full circle meet with Congressman Thompson. He came and we did a presentation out on the steps, and Supervisor Pyska, myself, Director Harder, Director DeLeo, and CEO Hutchinson, we all met with and had that little gathering out there with Susan and whatnot, so it was pretty good, and enjoyed that. And so with that, it looks like we've covered everything on the open agenda. It looks like we'll be moving on to closed session. I'll read them off, and let's see. 8.1, Public Employee Evaluation, Special District Administrator. 8.2, Public Employee Evaluation, Director of Child Support Services. 8.3, Employee Disciplinary Appeal, EDA 22-01 pursuant to Government Code Section 54957. 8.4, Conference with Legal Counsel, Significant Exposure to Litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9. D2E3, Claim of California Highway Patrol. 8.5, Conference with Legal Counsel, Existing Litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9. D1, John et al. Versus Lake County et al. And we'll be taking up the 8.3 through 5 first, and then coming out of closed session to see if there's any action to be taken. And following that, we'll move to the others with the employee evaluations. So we'll be doing the bottom half first and then coming back after. So you'll be seeing us come out of closed session, hopefully in the near future. So with that, we'll go into closed session.
If not, come find us.